Yo! Here we are. Let's fucking go, motherfuckers. Let's fucking go, motherfuckers. I guess we didn't do this one.
You guys were right. Realistically, with rising interest rates and inflation, we probably would have gone down eventually. But after the slowdown in production, after the controversy last August, guys, we're out of money. And we can't afford our office buildings anymore. There is a silver lining though. We were able to hold on to one asset, the old Wrangling house. So, one little eviction notice to the tenants later, et voila! The new, old Linus Media Group office. We're moving back in. Honestly, I see this as a win. I mean, before we grew too big for our britches, we used to shoot our videos here in this regular residential house. So why can't we do it again? It's where we created bangers like Holden water cooling, the ultimate RGB build guide, and more importantly, that time we pranked old Karen for a year. I mean, realistically, it worked for 10 people. Bangers like Holden water cooling, the ultimate RGB build guide, and more importantly, that time we pranked old Karen for a year. Bangers like Holden water cooling, the ultimate RGB build guide, and more importantly, that time we pranked old Karen for a year. Bangers like Holden water cooling, the ultimate RGB build guide, and more importantly, that time we pranked old Karen for a year. I mean, realistically, it worked for 10 people, it should work for 100 people. We just knew that creating an efficient layout was going to be a top priority. I mean, the first day I was here, I couldn't take 2
Is anyone with us?
bumping into something or tripping over something. So we divided up the house by department and gave everyone an equal workspace. This turned out that our department's got a little bit more equal workspace than others. We're going to start in the living room. Oh, after we tell you about our sponsor, please don't skip. We really need the money.
Build Redux. Not everyone has time to build themselves a PC. That's obvious. What's also obvious is that you should let the experts at Build Redux do that for you. Check them out at the link below.
Oh, wow. I think it's worse than I imagined. Oh my god, we moved the poor editors here too?
Everybody's here, Linus. The whole company.
In this corner where the Tech Quickie green screen used to be, we still have a green screen, but we've also got the Round department. How's the transition been, guys? What? Hey, glass half full, you still have a computer. Before they took the keys, we had everyone just kind of snatch everything that was within arm's reach, including the computers, so we're actually pretty good.
Yo, let's get out of here.
The issue is that asking everyone to sneak a desk seems like a tall order. Realistically, as you look around, it's not like every one of these people could have had a traditional desk anyway. That's why Jordan actually came up with the idea of bunk desks. I mean, we just added the junior writing position, so they get the ground spot while the senior writers get the top bunks. Nice. Don't worry, buddy. You'll get us later. While the view is good from the top, the commute has some problems. We've got Creator Warehouse engineers working on improved solutions for this, which you guys might catch later on in the video. Keep your eyes peeled. Speaking of peeling, potatoes. You may already know from the tour of our
Are they chasing you?
farm that we do our best to give our staff their yard time. I don't mean that in a literal sense. I think no one's allowed outside without a pass. Like yard time, like a prison, you know? Time away from your cell, it's a joke. Haha. Now, one big challenge is going from 4 fridges to 1 has led to some significant food storage problems. So, we started organizing pizza lunches every eating day. Everyone gets a slice, and, hey, cleanup is easy too. Which is nice, because we've been doing most of our vlogs here in the kitchen. It's like the good old days, only, cozier. Who's contractually obligated to do that?
Linus! Okay, we gotta shoot techniques now. We need the space. More suit Adam. Thanks to AI, Apple's next iPad is supposed to have a sense of self. Linus, I can hear you
talking.
New kill leader. Go on, watch out.
Come on! Yeah, I'm not having sense anymore. The green screen's been getting a ton of action. Means the editing den has been absolutely bust. We were originally planning to put logistics in, but then I had a little brainstorm. They can't take this box truck back if they don't know where it is. I was concerned we wouldn't be able to pack all 3 of our surviving logistics members in here, but with how little of our inventory made it to the new space, it's not a problem. In fact, we're going to have more reasons because
Get the second upgrade on the right. It gives you free easy cash saves, and it puts you all the way up to raid.
see, you are working off of one of my favorite kinds of products.
What are you saying?
From a sponsor who hasn't abandoned us over our
I didn't hear
process
not
to
one word that came out
controversies.
from Moses.
Like you, Green. Please don't go
Now
away.
that's an upgrade.
Oh, which by the way brings us to one of the problems that we had to solve. You see, most
not that.
Vancouver homes are
That's
serviced for
second
about
upgrade. That's a team.
10,000 watts. Which
We gotta move. We gotta move. We gotta move. Mom spaghetti. Let's get the fuck out of here, Eminem.
100 watts each for all of their tax, and that's not including
You're on a
appliances or air conditioning or...
Y'all niggas gonna get pinched.
Who turned these on?
Rats.
Who turned these on?
Helmet here. Level 4.
We're moving.
Budget for lights.
Everyone needs one.
Told you guys, there's no budget for lights. And working in the dark promotes positive chi. Look how much better we all feel right now.
You're getting hit by someone?
One of the ideas we had to solve this was to just have
The fuck is happening right now?
power-efficient laptops, you know, the kind that can be quickly grabbed in a hurry. But we realized that most of what we had on hand just wasn't sufficient for any kind of computation-heavy workload like rendering video. We're currently working on a solution using jailbroken PS5s, which draw less than 200 watts each as our standardized workstations. We're going to have the files that you need to jailbreak the PS5, link in the description below, but sadly, we've run into some compatibility issues with Adobe Creative Suite 6, so the editors were allowed to keep their Windows machines for now, on the condition that they edit twice as many videos as before.
Attention. There
Like
is
they've
a
got
new
twice as much
kill
power.
We just hold
We
tunnels,
even let them keep
shooting on the
full-size
other side.
desktop monitors like these ones from
You want to
Tesla
hold this?
that Landfest might want back at some point.
Or should we
We're
just
not
rush
getting it
Harvester
back.
and get our buddy?
I think we should try and get our buddy up first.
I mean,
I don't care about those guys. What's the death gonna do for me?
Anyway, like look at this. Blue, this is a great workstation you got here.
It's very ergonomic.
I was working on an upcoming video where we're giving away gaming rigs to people who
There's
ask
people
for
coming
in the
this way?
comments. What? What? That's what you're working on, isn't it?
In the comments?
Yeah.
Oh god.
You know, and then this here's the reason why we come from our TV. Go on, we'll pass it.
They're not by me now.
Now, as you can imagine, having so many people in a house that's designed for 5, maybe 6 people, there are not enough bathrooms to go around. We've tested out some solutions like a schedule or those vibrating pucks they hand out at restaurants that it turns out you can just take. But the best system ended up being earning bathroom time on a merit basis, which for me means anytime I want. Excuse me. Hey, whoa.
You're not gonna be able to get anywhere where the sky's blue.
Oh, dude,
That's not gonna
I
work.
take it back. Go ahead.
Pull it down a little bit.
Setting
Jeez.
up a
Right there.
respawn beacon.
Calling a respawn beacon.
What are you doing? You done? As for the
Are you crafting?
drop-off rush and the low-merit individuals who just can never really earn any bathroom time, we operate a shuttle to the local Starbucks where our MAC address writer,
Yo, as soon
Jonathan
as you
Forrest,
pop me, you might
has
as well
made
run.
his
I'm not
office.
Yep.
saying
There's a rope to get off of.
blends in so well with the crowd.
That's why I popped you here, because you can get on this rope right here.
Let's explore this way. Someone's been there.
And then you can get wherever the fuck you need to go. I'm going to mom.
We were all connected to Ethernet cables and got some pretty high-end stuff we were able to snag right here. But where do these cables come from? Where do they go? Let me show you.
Getting shot at.
One thing we will never compromise on is our ball-in servers. And I knew that we could address almost all of our infrastructure issues if we just set people up to work from home. And fairness to me,
Here's your
I
buddy.
allowed most of the managers to work from home, but for everyone else, we've got to connect to new ones. And our 10 gig internet connection that we achieved by aggregating links
There's backpacks over here and that.
and suspected neighbors.
Warning.
Thanks, neighbors! Right?
Progress.
Here. Recharging my shield.
Thanks, neighbors!
Heads up. The ring's moving. Target
Yo,
landing.
landing
Right
here.
Let's
here,
check out the
right here.
server. We wanted to put it downstairs where we
Right
could
here,
take
where?
advantage of the natural heat regulation of the basement, but
Need to recharge
now
my
that we
shield.
can't afford his executive level pay anymore, Luke enthusiastically volunteered to move back into the basement.
Target landed near me.
Working hard, hardly working.
Yo, that nigga's one tap. That nigga's one tap.
We're such good friends.
You're getting shot from the other side.
Oh, on our way upstairs then to see the server, we're going to pass our business and procurement teams on the house's naturally embedded cushioned benches. With all the changes that we're making around here, we decided there was nothing more important than to streamline the money-making processes.
There's a whole other team over there, third party over there.
Into our script writing now.
Coming up to y'all,
Yeah,
coming up
we
to
need to
y'all.
leave. Someone's coming in.
Yep, they
Come
just
on.
got me. They just came up zip line on me. I'm fucked. I'm gonna have to zip line out.
Any confidential
Or I'm gonna get
calls,
caught here.
the business team just
I'm
takes those in
dead.
their cars.
I'm dead. I'm dead.
In the car,
dead.
Sven! For fuck's sakes, man! In the car!
There's an enemy here.
I'm one
Just give me
tap.
that.
I'm literally
I'll
one
just
tap,
do it.
dog.
He'll talk to you in a minute. I gotta have a chat with him first.
Where you at? I can heal you if you get to me.
An opponent landed near me.
Be out there eventually. Here, take your phone. Other than the occasional insubordination, I'd say this department is doing great. You guys doing great?
Recharging my shield. 1 sec.
Yeah, I'm dead.
Now for the server.
Trying to get
Oh,
I don't even know where I'm getting shot from now. Oh, they're up there. Dude, this was dumb.
you wanna tell the people about what we've got going on here? This side, the infrastructure map, and now it's this. Which is great, yeah. Thanks, I guess. Oh, yeah, so this is our, like, you...
Trust me. Let's attack there. Target
Yeah,
spotted.
we need to get around this mountain.
There's gonna be people coming out of this mountain too. There's gonna be people going through. All right, fine, we can go through. There's gonna be people in there though, just so you know. I heard fighting in there.
Nah, there's not people in there. There's people on the other side, though.
Watch yourself. There's another squad
I
attack.
lied.
Warning.
Yeah, I heard people in there. Are we going through there or no? Are we going through there or no?
Hold up. Y'all
If we
sit
do it,
back a little.
if we do it, we're staying there then.
Hold up.
We're not going all the way through.
Taking some damage over here.
I've been hit.
Nah, we just hit the
Just
fucking
give
thing.
my
They know
shields
we're
a
here.
recharge.
Nah, I'm safe here. I'm not safe here, but like this the only way they could get in.
No. We go around. Come on.
It's too late now.
Fuck to do it again,
It's
man.
too late now.
Yeah, no, it's not too late. Y'all can still make it out. You got 17 seconds. Before
I'm
this
safe,
comes in.
man. I'm perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine.
Alright, I will make it to you.
Leveled up. It's upgrade time. Let's see what the Dark Order. Got an upgrade. Gonna put it to use.
Care package over
Oh lord, on me.
there. Heads up. Not all of us are in the ring.
Yo,
Just try to play
We're gonna have to flank them around.
I think there's enemies in the area.
Attention. Delivery.
I'm gonna go get that.
I mean, at least they won't expect this hell of
Another
a
replicator
flank.
coming in.
Enemy over there.
I'm not pushing there yet. There's another team. We are trapped right here, right now.
Enemy over there.
Yeah, you just saw him.
Yo, come on, y'all. Listen.
They're moving to you.
Yeah, I'm making a push out. Yeah, I'm running. Coming to you, Kobe. There might be people left.
I'll try to flank from behind because I don't know if they know that I.
Fine, we're good,
Oh no,
we're good.
they're coming to me. They're coming to me. Coming to me. Coming to me. Fuck.
Scrappy, come on.
I can't. They're on me, bro.
Rings nearby.
Let me do run through 2 people.
Enemy shield broken.
Down
Reloading.
one, down
Enemy
one, down one. Beam the other one, beam the other.
Punching a tunnel.
Firing. 10 seconds. The ring's just ahead.
Reloading. I set the portal.
Got him over there by you, by you.
Listen up. I'm getting shot at.
Reloading. Rings coming. I'm throwing a thermite. Another squad's attacking.
I need shields.
On me.
Taking shots here.
Lifeline. Where you at?
There's nothing I can do here. I got pinned back. As soon as I tried to come to you guys, I got pinned.
You know it just
Yeah,
does.
we killed the
We
team
got to watch
already.
each
That's
other's
what we
back.
say.
Reload.
Yeah, we lost. GG. That's it.
Getting shot at. Throwing another.
No shit, when we split up going through the fucking tunnel, that was it.
I mean, not necessarily. That was
That's what put us in that position right there.
because I was safe.
No, it wasn't,
I was
dog.
saying.
What was is you got pinched. That's what put us there. I made it
That's
past. If you would have kept
exactly
following me and you were with me, all 3 of us would have made it. But you fell
I
behind.
was completely
Not saying
okay,
it was
guys.
you. It was partially.
I ain't hearing that nonsense. I ain't hearing. Bam, bam, bam. 1304. Motherfucker 1304. Let's do the escape. Escape. Nice.
Remember there being more people on the team, and you're right. We sent half of them on a trip to China to work closer with our manufacturers. Literally. Then, to save money and keep the team, and you're right. We sent half of them on a trip to China to work closer with our manufacturers. Literally. Then, to save money and keep our prices low for you, we canceled their return airfare. That's a lose-win-win. What are the engineers working on? I can't help feeling like we used to draw things on computers.
It's hard.
We still can.
Okay, wait into this game, bro. Like, what
And
the fuck
this
is
way,
you coming
getting a
with that
sign
type
off
of
is much
energy
easier
for?
too.
It's the way you came in here. Yes, it is, Caleb. Okay, you heard what I said, man.
Yeah, fuck
Do
you!
it as manufacturers.
Fun fact,
Get outta
Mrs.
here.
Nick's old
Shut
office.
You shut your mouth up, motherfucker, before I slap that taste out of it.
About 8 other people.
You wanna smell? You better shut your tongue.
Crazy ass.
Here, on the other side of our now in-house...
You wanna look good for the ladies? You better shut your mouth, cause I'll blow those eyes right out.
Twitter and TikTok don't pay particularly well, and we had the cost down, but we can't stop the content mill. So the in-house screwdriver production facility, we've got our social team. As you guys probably know, Twitter and TikTok don't pay particularly well, and we had the cost down, but we can't stop the content mill. So these guys just need to take up a little less space than before. You guys are doing good?
This is Bastion. I have a question.
I have a question for you. Why are you not posting cat news?
Highly paid cloud exposure. I'm wondering if you can.
That's a good question. Why don't we turn our attention to the fashion team? What are you working on?
So right now, you know, just measuring some fabric for some new styles, testing out to make sure that the GSM is what we want, so that we won't be made a real garment. You know, all that good stuff.
Down?
Yes.
Like way down.
I know, yeah. We'll talk about it.
Oh god. Meanwhile, in the final corner of this space, it's a little tougher to measure things, I guess, without the table. How do you do it now?
Get ready. Moving out.
Doing before.
Why does this have level? Now, I You heard it here first. 1 in every 100 ships will have authentic Sarah tears on it. And to show we care about our customers just as much as our employees, we've kept over 19% of our customer care team right here in the closet. Thanks, Nolan. You're doing God's work. I tell it, I'm God. There's not much to see in here, though. It's basically like the rest of the house. I mean, look at this awful paint job. Do you even know what eggshell is? I guess I've got my plants and, oh, this is where I have my visions. This isn't the time for work, though. I'm giving you guys a tour. Now, you might wonder why exactly it is that I need my own from the building, and it's because I have visions doesn't mean that I have to
We should
be the
enemy
only
over
people
there.
who execute them.
Here comes the drill. Packstyle flying.
It feels good to be outside. Ah, by the way, this is where we're shooting Short Circuit these days. Let's go have a look. It's just like the old days.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. Make sure to check out another video like the one where we learned to sous vide a sausage. That's a good one.
It took a really long time because the heater on the hot tub doesn't work so good. But hey, I mean, look, we're ready for all the different elements. Bell even has a full 40% of this, hot tub cover. You good enough? At least it would if we had to pay the gas bill. Oh, there's our parking lot. The neighbors don't really like it. This is fun, right? I mean, securing a parking spot at the old office was almost a blood sport, so as you can imagine this, it's more like the Thunderdome. 100 people enter, 1 person gets rich. You know,
I am
the
caught.
Angry Maxwell movie. In the meantime, we've developed an efficient system for fitting an incredible 30-hole cars where our neighbors used to access their garages, and the only scratches are from when they get keys. We really are making the best out of what could have been a tough situation, but you know what I always say? What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Oh, we ended up in HR. They suck. Let's go look at the lab, okay? Things are a little tight in here, but we're making it work. How's it going, Gary?
It's going great today.
All right. Let's see then if you can handle this. One more time. What's better, G-force or arc? Arc. Okay. Again. G-force. Arc. Arc. He's gonna get it eventually. How's it going, John?
Yeah, a lot of speed here.
That's a good attitude. I like to hear that. And what are you working on?
We're retesting the XTX because everybody keeps complaining about it.
Oh, that's a good idea. Actually, there's a lot of kind of redoing that's been going on, including adjusting the labs with attitude. Antoine here is undergoing a mandatory new training program. Antoine, we've been through this. We live as a team, we die as a team. It is amazing how many tax write-offs you can fit in this bad boy. Yeah, it all kind of came together. I was worried it would be a tough transition, but instead it feels like going back to our roots. And guys, this is just the beginning. We've got all kinds of great content planned for you guys, like whole human water cooling V2, where we actually mix the chilled liquid with their blood. Which is going to be really cool. Oh, and my personal favorite, the best tech for faking your death and leaving the country. On that subject, hey, shout out VSonic and Landfest for lending us those monitors that,
Yo, I need to go.
Good luck, though, because the only people we give this address to...
Come to me, come to me.
Like our sponsor.
Squarespace. Whether you're starting a new business or growing an existing one,
I'm going to the rope to fly up and out.
Website is key to taking things to the next level. Squarespace's user-friendly, all-in-one platform uses intuitive drag-and-drop elements so you can make an eye-catching and engaging page for your audience to interact with, all with no coding experience required. And if you're building out something...
Are you okay? Are you alone? Are you alone?
Library lets you manage all your files from one central hub and use them across the Squarespace platform.
I asked if you were fucking alone. Oh my god, no. Fuck you, dude. What a dumbass. I flew back into the storm to get you like that? How bad are you at the game?
Oh, thank you. And after your website's up and running, use advanced analytical insights to see what you're doing right and what needs a little tweak. So if you need a website, and you do, think Squarespace. Head to squarespace.com.
It's the mic off my fucking camera because my fucking Apex's software is broken.
What was that?
It's alright, bro. Oh, shit.
Because this is my normal fucking mic, but it sounds all blown out for some reason because Apex software is all fucked up.
You good, my brother? Why is he on my dick like this?
Just die so I can go play with someone else, please. Jesus.
Aww.
The sky's belong to me, but the first round's on you. Woo!
Hey, what's going on, everyone? JC Sense here, and we're here at Micro Center in Tustin, California. You guys know that's our home Micro Center store. We're here actually featuring the Tech Bar today, and I got kind of a fun challenge here where we're going to see whether or not they can sabotage some PCs, and I can figure out what's wrong with them as sort of like a little impromptu tech challenge. But first, logo. The Height Y70 dual-chamber ATX PC case provides users the familiar look and feel of the Y60, but with an increased component compatibility and thermal performance. With 4 unique colorways and a beautifully crafted 3-piece panoramic glass, the Y70 provides a clear window into the heart of your PC. Its expanded 4-slot vertical GPU support with an included 4.0 PCIe riser cable provides ample room for the largest graphics cards, while additional space between the edge of the card and the glass provides improved airflow. Up to 3 120mm fans can be mounted below the GPU to provide a direct path of cooling, while up to 360mm AIOs can be mounted to both the top and side. Y70 also provides up to 180mm of clearance for air coolers. To learn more about the Height Y70, visit the sponsored link in the description below. So the cool thing about the Tech Bar, if you guys aren't aware, think of it as like kind of like a service center for your computer. It doesn't matter if it's one that you bought here or your own that you built at home. If you're having problems with your system, you can bring it here. They'll help diagnose it, get it fixed or repaired, make sure everything's running correctly. Let's say you came into the store and you bought some components and you wanted to have those installed because maybe you're not familiar with how to do it. You can also do that here as well. You can also get general maintenance done here, virus scans, virus removal, data recovery, all sorts of stuff can be done right here at the tech bar. But to kind of put some of what they go through kind of to the test, like I said, I had them secretly sabotage a couple of their power spec systems, and then kind of keep track of what they did and see whether or not I can go in there and actually figure out all of the problems. I told them to just do everything from maybe something might be considered what a new builder might accidentally do when putting together a system, all the way to maybe things that are they're just intentionally not right, that you may not even necessarily go looking for because it's so unorthodox on the kind of problems we've come across. So with that said, let's go ahead and head into the tech bar behind the scenes in their work area, and let's see what they've got ready for us. Okay, so here I am in the back area of the tech bar. This is where all the repairs and upgrades and services are performed. So I thought it would be fun, like I kind of already alluded to, that it'd be fun to have them sabotage some of their open box systems here to see whether or not I could figure out what's wrong with them. Sort of like what we did with the Linus Tech Challenge with Steve, if you will. So I kind of gave them free reign. Do whatever you want to the systems. I think they're above and beyond what a typical system that would come in for service is like, but I just thought that this would be kind of a fun idea. So I don't know anything about what's wrong with them. I was told they kind of went ham with them, but that all the parts in there work. So no part swap should be necessary, I'm hoping, because there's no parts here to test with, but I have no idea what's wrong with these. So we're going to kind of go through these one at a time. I already see one thing on this system here that's sort of bugging me, and that is the fact that the cooler fan is backwards. It's pulling air through. So if you look right here, you can see that the cool fan is pulling air through that way. And you never want a single fan to be pulling air through a heatsink because it can pull in through the sides, so you want it to be pushing air through. So that's one thing I'm going to be changing on there. Past that, I don't know. So let's go ahead and just turn it on and see what we got. That's got to be the first thing if I go and plug in and move things around. Everything appears to be plugged in so far in terms of power and stuff. Let's see, the 8-pin, look like, nope, we're good. That's that on. Let's get started. Okay, well the fan.
They're going to the rope.
So this fan is not turning, but the RGB is plugged in. This fan is turning, but the RGB is not plugged in on that one. So we can check that in a second. That's not something that's going to be detrimental to making the system boot though. We can see whether or not we actually get close. We have a red light. Not sure. Nope, still going through posts. Well, it looks like it went through all the postings too, but we don't have an image. So let's see. We have a hard drive like flashing too. It's there. So it was posted. I don't know why we're not getting an image. So who knows if this GPU is even plugged in. So now we're going to take a look at the back. Now usually a tech working on a computer would have some information. Customer states, that's like just rolled in, right? Customer states have slight vibration. ARM is rusted off, right? Kind of a thing. But I have no idea what any of the issues are with this system or what the problem could have actually been. So this is all just blind now.
Anyone got any shields?
But that's kind of not a problem if we're not posting. So not only was the super zip tight, the VGA, as you can see, was not even plugged in, so that's why we weren't getting any VGA signal. I'm wondering too if maybe EPS was one of these.
We're gonna keep it, keep it. I'm moving away from you.
Looks like neither EPS. Well, I don't know. EPS
I'm not going that way.
I don't think we would actually get power at all. Like power button wouldn't
keep it.
We tried to hide it by having that all bundled down super tight. So they made me have to actually pull the power supply. I'm worried about the heatsink fan later, but it's not that huge of a deal. Like it's still getting cooling passively through the power. Okay, now the lights are going through much quicker on their tests. Oh wait. I'll push the RAM all the way back in now, because it wasn't. There. So far we found unplugged power supply, or GPU cable for the power supply. Fan is unplugged and backward. RGB is not working on that fan. I don't know if that's intentional or unintentional. And the RAM was not seated all the way. There we go. Blue light. Okay, so at least we're going to post now. I'm not even going to worry about the BIOS and XMP and all that until I figure out what's happening with that fan. But as far as I can tell, that RGB should be working. But I hate daisy chain fans because it becomes very difficult to trace them, like especially when they're all like tangled up like this and then taped together. Regardless, I need to take care of the CPU fan first. Where do I want to plug that one in then? Because I have something plugged in the CPU fan right now that's not the CPU fan.
This
so I'm
is stupid.
Replicator control delivered.
Replicator's coming.
Bandit.
My name is Kaylee, and in this video we're going to take a look at the 7,000-year-old boats who were discovered in the Mediterranean Sea that reveal quite the advanced seafaring technology. This video is sponsored by NordVPN, but as always, more on the sponsor later in the video. As most of you will know, a lot of the important civilizations in Europe originated on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, and boats have been used to carry people in the Mediterranean Sea for many thousands of years. In fact, it seems that people have been navigating the Mediterranean on sophisticated boats for more than 7,000 years. It's difficult to find the remnants of their technological prowess, as these boats have been submerged in lakes, seas, lagoons, or buried in soggy peat bogs. As you can imagine, those aren't the ideal circumstances to discover and therefore recover these ancient vessels. But that doesn't mean that we don't find them and excavate them so we can study them, because we do find them, and we will excavate them, and we definitely will study them. So today I want to talk to you about something really important: staying safe online with NordVPN. In the middle attacked cybercriminals, a really important project we covered. Ads, pop-up ad guarantee, the threats ruin your online experience. Take control, if you will. The Spanish National Research Council in Barcelona, that the threats ruin your online experience. Take control with NordVPN. A team of archaeologists from the Spanish National Research Council in Barcelona studied 5 intricately crafted boats, or canoes, if you will, who were discovered in previous excavations at the Neolithic lakeshore settlement of La Marmota, which is located in the region of Lazio, about 32 kilometers northwest in the city of Rome in Italy. The Neolithic settlement of La Marmota was initially discovered by archaeologists in 1989. While it was submerged 8 meters, which equates to roughly 25 feet, beneath the surface of Lake Bracciano. Lake Bracciano is connected to the Mediterranean Sea by the river Aron, at least back then it was. So the settlement of La Marmota was excavated between 1992 and 2006, and another excavation took place in 2009. This settlement has been exceptionally well preserved by mud and water. The archaeologists discovered an enormous collection of wooden tools used to weave textiles, fibrous baskets for carrying food, and 5 dugout canoes. These canoes date back to between 5700 BCE and 5100 BCE, which actually means that these are the oldest boats discovered in the Mediterranean Sea up until now. La Marmota seems to have been a thriving farming community and was most likely an import and trading hub given its location close to the Mediterranean coast. For at least 4 centuries, the people at the La Marmota settlement were thriving before they abandoned their homes suddenly and mysteriously. Thankfully, the remnants of their settlement have been very well preserved, and now we have tangible evidence of a community who started to farm on the edge of a vast wilderness. The first of the 5 boats was discovered at the end of the excavation season in 1993, when using a suction hose to vacuum up the mud, one of the divers spotted a piece of wood that was much larger than a post or a roof timber. It took the researchers several months of careful vacuuming in 1994, and eventually the more than 11 meter, which equates to 36 feet, long canoe emerged from the mud. This canoe was carved from a single massive oak trunk. There were stripes of oaks at intervals along the floor of the boat, and that must have acted as ribs to strengthen and stabilize the canoe. 3 trapezoidal blocks of wood with holes pierced in them were found inserted into the wall of the canoe at evenly spaced distances. These may have been used to fasten sails or ropes. There was no doubt in the minds of the researchers that the canoe was not just lake-worthy, but that it was perfectly seaworthy. The other 4 discovered canoes were a bit smaller, ranging between 4 and 9.5 meters, which equates roughly to between 13 and 31 feet. 2 of these canoes were made of alder wood, 1 was made of poplar, and 1 was made of beech.
and all these canoes had cross beams to reinforce the hull. The builders of these canoes must have been people who knew how to choose the best trees, how to cut the trunk and hollow it by burning out its middle, and how to stabilize the dugout with transversal reinforcements on its base, or perhaps even by the use of side poles or even parallel canoes in the form of a catamaran. This would have provided greater safety and stability and greater capacity for the transport of people, animals, and goods. Knowing that similar features are being used in more recent nautical technologies, the researchers suspect that many major advances in sailing must have been made during the early Neolithic period. There is a possibility that more canoes may be preserved much deeper in the mud of Lake Bracciano, as it's estimated that only 1/4 of the site has been excavated so far. However, there are no tangible pieces of evidence that could explain why La Marmota was suddenly abandoned somewhere after 5200 BCE.
What do you think I'm
The
doing?
researchers have suggested that the sudden rise of the water may have made the inhabitants leave hastily, which could explain why so many objects were left behind. As I mentioned earlier, the
I'm not
dating
getting
of these
shot and I'm
canoes
looting.
revealed them to be the oldest discovered boats in the Mediterranean up until now. And these canoes offer invaluable insights into the Neolithic navigating and seafaring technologies. The builders of these boats were technological, advanced, and sophisticated, and these canoes highlight their woodworking skills and their amazing construction skills of complex vessels. So, what do you think of this discovery? Let me know in comments down below. And don't forget to click the link in the description down below to get started with NordVPN today. If you enjoyed watching, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you like to see more of these kind of videos, and click that bell icon if you want to be notified whenever I upload. If you haven't seen my previous videos yet, then click the card in the upper right corner, or click one of the links in the description down below, or click a video in the end card. I would also like to say a massive thank you to all my patrons and my channel members. Thank you so much for supporting me. It truly means the world to me. And yeah, with that said, I'll see you
what
in
are
the
you
next
doing?
video.
I came to you guys. I'm going back to this rope so I can get the fuck out of here.
Yup, they're looking at me real close. Charging on my shields.
Oh, we're all three here now, so we can fight this.
Recharging my shields, Guzzy.
Is that what you want to do?
No one hides from my drill. Someone else is over there. Rolling that way. Going here. You're lost.
Bro, you guys are gonna get. We're gonna get third party. There's another team across the way. I'm moving back and out.
Must go faster.
That's why you're getting shot from the other side.
Come on. Drilling here. Go here. We've got violence to do. Yo, cracked an enemy shield. Engaging. Reloading.
Target over there.
Cracked the Banjo shield. Girls ripping
This freaking
out
team's
there.
getting freaking pensive. We're like really screwed.
Arcstar.
Yeah, I'm getting hit now. I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. I don't know why we're staying here.
Yo, cracked an enemy shield. Reloading. Taking fire. Rolling with the wrecking ball. Down that one. Ready, set,
If
go.
I can have help, like I literally knocked one of them.
Enemy here. Reloading. Being attacked by another squad. Chucking a frag. Chucking a frag. Eek here. Reloading. Enemy here. Mess them up. Replicators on the way, amigos. Taking fire. Firing. Yo, cracked an enemy shield. Chucking a frag.
I'm distracting them for you, but
No bueno.
I just got freaking sniped. I'm clear. There's no one over on me. Can you punt? Or just...
Can you guys get back to me at all? Oh, another team on me. I'm leaving. Sorry, I'm out of here. Peace. Good luck.
Alright.
I'm getting smoked right now. Fuck.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Just come to us.
I ain't coming to you. Fuck no. I'm not going to hell. That's already bad situation.
Stay as a team.
No.
How will we not try to stay as a team? I killed a whole entire team by myself.
I've got an upgrade waiting for me.
He's over yonder.
Listen up, I'm calling a lifeline package in.
We're all over the map.
Upgraded, I'm good to go. There is a new kill. Just giving my shields a recharge.
New kill leader. Show off.
Deploying health drone.
No one hides from my drill. Firing.
We're all inside the ring. Good.
Being shot at. Gives a sec. Recharging my shields. Yo, cracked an enemy shield. Firing. Reload. Taking fire.
Dude, this freaking
Charging on my shields.
Sentinel, dude.
Me huddle. Care package dropping by for dinner. Drill's hunting for eggs. Yo, cracked an enemy shield. Reloading. Taking fire.
Bro, this
Bastion Alemon says, WTF Lifeline.
What do you mean, what the fuck? I told you I was leaving out of there. You guys stayed in that corner trying to fight someone that you told me not to go into that fight. And then you were like, don't go in that building, there's people there. And so I didn't go through that. And then you guys stood there for 5 minutes. Waiting.
Are you stupid or STA?
Are you stupid? You waited in the same spot for 5 minutes for a team to third party you. I moved and got to safety.
Another squad is attacking us. Charging on my shields.
I mean,
And the whole time I was trying to give you cover the entire time. I kept getting clipped because I kept going up on top of the roof to give that other guy, to make him to pull to me, because you guys were getting fucking third partied from the other side.
Hit the ejector seat.
I'm literally watching all of this happen from the distance right now. I can see all of this. You get over to here, and then you can get to me.
We're not all in the ring. Check your position.
Replicator being delivered.
I just got scanned though.
Wrecking balls rolling. Always knew I had the biggest balls around here. Being attacked by another squad. Charging on my shields. Gives a sec, recharging my shields.
Enemy spotted.
Being shot at. Un momento, healing. Enemy real close. We ain't letting them live, are we? Engaging. Drills tearing through. Skull on the feet. It's go time. Smell a rotten egg over there.
Warning. Room closing.
Say one. Come and get your birthday present.
Miaro, care package dropping in for dinner. I need you.
Hostile over there. Got another squad. Armor.
Jump on that up. An enemy landed near me. Drills tearing through. Egg here. Darren,
Got another squad.
steady shield and crack. They're shooting at me. Must go faster. package over there. Let's get on that. Must go faster.
Enemy spotted.
No one being shot at. Crack that egg shield. Reloading. Gives a sec. Recharging my shields. 45 seconds, but we could just walk it. Bad guy there.
Attention. There is a
Drill
new
tearing
kill
through.
leader.
Ah, I'm hit.
Listen up, got another squad coming in.
Rings around the corner, and we.
Got you.
Go here. We got violence to do.
Ring moving now. Rápidamente.
Bad egg, real close.
The captain's in the green time.
Yeah, he's always just chilling there.
There's a team right above me.
My cat could have been doing that.
An enemy landed near me, amigos.
Green cat. Green cat.
Do you have any cells? Like,
What?
no?
You should make him Jordan Bomb Strangler one day, and then meet Timmy Turner.
Thank you.
Oh! Yeah, that would you guys like go out like that?
Yes. You should make him Timmy Turner and Jordan Bomb Strangler. That'd be so good.
When are you coming back, bro?
June?
June?
You can do it after the camera.
Yeah.
When
That
I'm
is like
down the
top
hill
tier.
right there.
You think he's the older version of Timmy Turner?
Oh, like the older one? Yeah, I can love
Make me the old one.
I don't know who they are, but I'm.
It's children's cartoons.
Oh, okay. What were you today?
It gives your position away, but okay, I'm back.
You live in giant.
They said.
There's nothing I can do with that.
Grenade out.
So that's that
Drop down straight.
we go to HTTPs and the store and protect the cell.
Guys, pop D-back.
I can heal you in here.
I'm not sure if I just walk around
Rings around the
like
corner,
this.
10 left.
No, I don't
Should
care.
jump down.
Yeah, we just need a t-shirt or anything.
We should walk downtown.
Gives a sec. Recharging my shield.
You just walk around. We're all Walmart.
Rings moving.
Do that, man.
Yeah. No, that's 6th Street. Actually, wait, it's Saturday. You can have people vote you as the whole $5.
Yeah, no, people would want to.
He would totally do it.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, I didn't realize what my shirt is. I don't know why. Andre.
Yo, cracked an enemy.
I covered a guy beneath us. This guy's low. I covered him. Nice. Finish that guy.
Fucking my back so bad. That chat when I deadlift for yesterday, I just like an idiot. I'm fucking my back. Yeah, I'm
Get to this rock. Get to this rock.
Okay. I'll get you fan for 30 minutes.
Listen up, got another squad coming in.
It's not even off.
Just giving my shields a reach.
Use the face.
No, we look more.
You're doing a jump pad?
No, I don't know if that's good.
Maybe it is.
Like, we're just gonna do No,
I didn't look younger before, right?
yeah, you, I don't think you look younger at all.
No?
Nah, I don't know how you look. I mean, maybe you just look more chiseled.
Right?
Like, your face does look very good.
It's,
This can be motivation.
yeah. Need to put in pillars in the face so I look like this.
You need
a filter on your camera.
Filter on my camera.
It's not a filter, I just have way better lighting because I use this one.
Do people use filter on their cameras?
Yeah, some do. I mean, we're filtered on our cameras.
The camera I use for IRL has a filter built into the camera.
Oh,
Smooth
the
skin.
Sony skin one? Yeah,
Yeah.
this one doesn't matter, my other one has it though. But it looks weird, it looks like...
Fake.
It doesn't even look good, it looks like...
Yeah, you look too, your face just
it looks creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go away, Miz. Okay.
He always reads the one message that says that when he wants
Emmy,
to.
it's your whenever I'm on your stream, your chat is just like there's like 1,000 people that come out of nowhere and they just start spewing, leave, get out of here, cry, die, kill yourself, you're the worst, holy fuck, why is he here?
Most of it's probably your viewers, because they're like, oh, he's gonna react and it's funny.
Yeah, I know.
So you look at him.
The live mix.
Yeah, I'm so weird.
Those guys.
What the hell is my viewers?
No, not the guys that's the guys that send leave.
Fuck the guys that are saying stay.
Yeah. He wants to leave.
And I just polished my shield. The blame chat.
I'm so white. Holy shit. Why is your camera view so white?
I'm the jump master. Jump this
Why did it only show 2 of us?
You've been on the sun.
Nope.
You don't like the sun?
Sun? No.
Sun?
No.
Did you see that band that Sam and Destiny reacting to each other in live stream packs?
Well, there goes live.
Hope you're not.
Yeah.
That was the only thing keeping it alive. It's like they just ended like it was morphing to like one giant ball of just density, and then now it's just nothing. There's nothing on L7 officially. Now it's just the occasional Nick Collin post, and
yeah, there was 2 today.
It's fantastic.
Oh, 2 Nick Collin posts.
2 Nick Collin posts. So it was him being at Iron Forge.
I don't even check that Reddit. I don't. There's no point in checking it. It's maybe I should.
Round 1. Beginning ring countdown.
Okay. It's gonna be hard getting the other arm. Even it's coming together though.
Yeah. Looks way better.
Yeah.
Listen up, the ring be closing in 1 minute. Prowler SMG here.
The ring is quite far. There is not much time left.
I'm in trouble. Ring's next location is on your map. I'm leading out. Let's go there. Grenade.
Reloading.
There's one. I'm going to rest here.
I got you, friend. We should go this way. I am taking.
I hit him hard.
Shields broke. Listen up, I'm getting shot at. Reload.
Look out, grenade. My shields are recharging.
That one's on the ground, is almost dead.
Be ready.
The ring's moving, friends.
Down one.
I got you, friend.
Bro, Lifeline, you have to come here, dude.
No, I can't. That guy's broke.
The enemies are shooting at me. Reloading.
Enemy very close.
Bro, Lifeline, you like, you cannot do anything as a fucking sniper, dude. You're literally just dead.
Fire. You hear that? There's a care package coming down.
Are you kidding me? I can do nothing. I took 3 of them out. You're dumbass. You guys stood there inside a building without moving. Tumby. I'm a dumbass. We don't play that here, buddy. We ain't playing that stupid game. Play that stupid game. Get some stupid prizes. Finish Paul's tech.
We feature GDDR7 for their higher end SKUs at least, which will increase throughput significantly, going from about 18 to 23 gigabits per second with the fastest GDDR6X to the first wave of GDDR7, which could hit 28 gigabits per second, 32 gigabits per second, and even 40 gigabits per second modules already in the works. We will probably see 2 gigabyte modules in GPUs launching this year, with 3 gigabyte GDDR7 modules becoming available in 2025. The only big question remaining is, will NVIDIA pay extra for an X version that only they can use this time around? I hope not. GDDR7 is enough of a mouthful to say repeatedly as is. Speaking of tasty bite-sized things, it's time for tech briefs. AMD's $550 Radeon RX 7900 GRE made its debut about a month ago, but consumers are a little underwhelmed by its lackluster performance compared to other similar cards on the market like the 7800 XT. But now, you can properly overclock the GRE's VRAM thanks to this week's Adrenalin Driver 24.3.1 update, which Steve from Hardware Unboxed did, bumping memory throughput from 18 gigabits per second to 21.2 gigabits per second, about a 15% increase, and this, combined with a 4-clock OC, allowed the GRE to stretch its legs and regularly keep pace with an overclocked 4070 Super. It even beats out the $700 7900 XT and $800 4070 Ti Super in some tests, quite an impressive feat. The only truly baffling thing is why AMD didn't enable memory overclocking for the 3 reviews that came out last month, given that the card has been available in China since mid-2023. The handheld PC gaming scene has never had more options available, and if you're trying to stick to a sub-$500 budget on one, you now have another really good choice. The Asus ROG Ally Non-Extreme, which was originally meh at its $600 MSRP, can now be purchased from Best Buy for $400. That makes it very competitive versus the entry-level Steam Deck options, and provides some spacing between it and the ROG Ally Extreme, which was originally $700.
Definitely did not open those boxes.
Seen a price drop and can now be purchased for $600. You may have heard some EVGA news this week. No, they're not doing any video cards again, but they still do sell things like power supplies, and they've managed to pry at least one Redditor storage configuration thanks to an RMA snafu. Modular power supply cables should only ever be used with the power supply they ship with, because there is no universal standard for them. EVGA sources power supplies from multiple OEMs, though, who use different standards for PSU pinouts. At some point, EVGA changed the pinout configuration for their G2 power supply lineup, likely because they switched OEMs, but that's a guess on my part. The main point is that they did not make a new product SKU, they just kept using the existing one. So when Redditor Sigurses RMA'd their 1000 watt GQ power supply and returned the unit, but not the cables, the replacement PSU was matched up with the old cables and instantly fried their SATA storage cell. Since I've recommended many EVGA power supplies in the past, I wanted to make note of this. If you RMA your power supply, even if it's a pain in the ass, remove the cables too and make sure to only use the ones that ship with the unit you're installing. And it's a black eye for EVGA's public image for sure. I can't imagine how this will affect their GPU sales. To round things out today, did you guys know I could make balloon animals?
Barrel stabilizer here. Level 3.
It was a college job, but I always felt just a little bit guilty about the economics of taking a 1 to 3 cent bit of latex, filling it with air, and trading that to a family, typically for a $3 to $5 tip. Somehow I was reminded of that when this story popped up. The world's first AIO with a curved AMOLED screen. The name of this thing is ridiculous enough. It's called the Trix Panorama Exhibition Area, and it features an 8th gen Asetek pump and a 6.5-inch curved AMOLED display. Asetek AIOs, the ones that aren't festooned with LCD screens, typically sell for $150 or so, which is already steep in my opinion. Drop in a curved AMOLED screen though, and suddenly they're worth $300 to $400? To me though, it just seems like they're taking something of minimal substance and filling it with hot air so they can increase the price. Which makes it the perfect closer for today's show. Oh, what, did you guys want something a little bit more complicated than the dog? I can do. There. It's a person. I had a little out of practice, but I think it turned out okay. But there you have it, guys. Tech news for the week. And if you enjoyed my hot air today, click that like button and leave me a comment down below. While you're down there, all the articles I talked about today are linked in the video's description if you're interested, and you can check out my store at paulshardware.net for high-quality merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, beer sets, and more. Subscribing to my channel is always a good call, too. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Go on, try to stop me.
They're collecting information about they're collecting information about your sex life, your sexual activity, your union membership, your genetic information, your biometrics. On top of all the data of where you're driving, when you're driving, how fast you're driving, how many people are in the car, what radio station you're listening to, and on and on and on. It was huge. It was really frightening.
Is your car spying on you? My name is Jim Lee, and you're watching Beyond the Headlines on.
Yes. Not spying on you. It's taking the data that you are allowing them to have. Sending
Many
it.
people think of their car as
Spying
a
if it
private
was
space. On the doctor, personal conversation, cry over a breakup, or hit the open road without the world knowing where you're headed. But that perception no longer matches reality. According to Mozilla Research, popular global brands including BMW, Ford, Toyota, Tesla, Kia, Subaru can collect deeply personal data such as sexual activity, immigration status, race, facial expressions, weight, health and genetic information, and where you drive, with data collected by sensors, microphones, cameras, phones, and devices drivers connected with cars, as well as by car apps, company websites, dealerships, and vehicle telematics. Where does all this information go? Who has access to it? And for what purposes are they using it? Joining us today is Jen Kaltwriter, Program Director of Privacy Not Included, a Mozilla initiative guide that helps consumers understand privacy and security features of various technology products and services. Jen, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, I want to start with the report itself. The Mozilla report found that all 25 major car brands reviewed received failing water services. Wondering what exactly it means to receive a failing mark. You can go into that a little bit and share with us maybe some of the most surprising, perhaps startling findings.
Yeah, so all 25 car brands companies earned our privacy not included warning label. And what that means is we ding companies for how much data they collect, how they use that data. So are they sharing it for targeted advertising purposes? Are they selling it? Things like that. How much control a user has over their data. So can you get your data deleted no matter where you live, or only if you live in a state where your privacy right is guaranteed. We look at companies' known track record. So do they have a good track record of protecting and respecting and securing the information that they collect on people? We also have a set of minimum security standards that we look at for every product we review. Does it use encryption? Does it require a strong password? Things like that. And so with the reviewing of the car companies, we found like our eyes were bugging out when we found how much data these car companies said in their privacy that they could collect on users. And so you ask, well, what are some of the things that really surprised us? And I mean, first off was just the scope of how much information these car companies collect. And you think about, okay, a car should collect the information it needs from point A to point B.
Dead Knight 003 says, wow, you're so good, Scrap.
Place where you start. Car companies felt like they went way beyond it. They're collecting
Scrappy DP says, you dead?
Collecting information about your sex life, your sexual activity, your union membership, your genetic information, your biometrics. On top of all the car usage data of where you're driving, when you're driving, how fast you're driving, how many people are in the car, what radio stations you're listening to, and on and on and on. It was huge. It was really frightening.
You mentioned like sexual activity health information, these kinds of things. So what mechanisms or technologies are they using in the car to get that kind of data?
That's a good question. So we know that all modern cars are smart cars. It's not like you can go to the lot right now and buy a dumb car. It's all the cars that they're selling on the lot.
I'm a revolutionary. It ain't revolutionary.
Now, pretty much cars that have sensors built in to track your speed, your braking, whether you're wearing your seatbelt. They have microphones in the cars. They have cameras in the cars and outside the cars. So there's a lot of the data that is being collected. And the potential for the data, I think, to collect everything. And this is kind of the tip of the iceberg. I just read some information last week about a company that was developing technology to use the in-car cameras to study our emotions and moods, to know what we're feeling when we're in our car. And so that's really scary. So they can collect this information through the sensors, the microphones, the cameras. How are they collecting information or even are they? That's something that I can't answer. I'm not inside of the car companies to know what they're doing. But all I can say for certain is if you buy a Nissan or a Kia, privacy policies vis-a-vis last year's made you consent to it so that they could collect that information.
So you mentioned a couple of brands. I'm wondering if you guys spotted any regional differences between manufacturers and how they collect data or how much data they collect. Let's say North American manufacturers versus European one, Asian one. Is there any difference in how they approach this issue of data privacy?
Yeah, so we reviewed the privacy documentation that's we also looked at EU privacy documentation. And so privacy documentation varies a little bit. In the EU, they have what's called GDPR, and their privacy policy is consumer rights, rights to be painted, rights not to have and things like that. In the US, we don't have a federal privacy law. And so you'll read the American privacy law and you'll get an addendum for what's happening in California or maybe Virginia or place like that. But across the board, car companies are saying they can collect a lot of information. In the EU, consumers are protected, they have certain rights, so everybody will have the right to use data. Here in the US, not everyone has data. Consent is required to be documented a little more explicitly in the EU than it is here in the US. And so those were the major differences. I think looking at EU privacy policies, they don't tend to go into as much detail about the data, how the data is collected, or what data is collected and how it is used. And you will get that in North American privacy policies.
And you spoke a little bit about consent, so I'm wondering if we dive into that a little bit more. Specifically, when we think of consent, we usually think in terms of social media companies, online services, apps, things like that, where we physically click that we agree to specific terms and conditions, albeit I don't think many of us actually read the document itself. But how does this happen, let's say, with the owner of a car or even a passenger in a vehicle? How do they give consent to the manufacturer?
Yeah, consent is a really tricky issue, especially when it comes to cars. My family bought a car last year.
The old face and the new. I do not know which both to guide us.
Reckless and full of wrecks. Let's go. All aboard the Ox train.
Ready to go. See?
is your champion.
If freedom means survival, and survival means winning, then I'll win.
Let's land. Battle lies below.
Attention. First blood.
No point
First
did I
blood,
was I
good thing
required
it's
to
not
consent
us.
to the privacy policy for the car company. I chose not to download the app. If I downloaded the app, there would have been an opportunity to look at that privacy policy probably when the app was downloaded. And then the use of the connected services. Sometimes something will flash on the screen really quickly. Hey, you consent to this. But to sit through in a car and scroll through, 5,000 words of a legal document isn't usually the way that people are going to do it. And so consent is really tricky. And we saw this with the story that came out from the New York Times recently where GM was collecting usage data on people's cars, sharing that with data brokers. The insurance companies were buying it from the data brokers, and people's interest rates were going up. GM says, oh, we never did that without consent. But the consumers were like, I don't remember ever consenting. And it was a feature in their OnStar. And so, whether it happened at the dealer, we're hearing a lot about when people buy cars, the salespeople are actually incentivized to get them to download the app and accept all conditions or sign up for connected services. And the car companies really push them. And so you might not have realized before you drove off the lot when the car salesman was walking you through the features, they actually consented for you, and you didn't realize it. And then it's hard to go in and unconsent. Once you've consented, it's really hard to kind of pull that back. And then there's apps, and then there's connected services. If you use SiriusXM, do you recall when you consented? So that's a problem. Consent is very murky. Car companies aren't very explicitly getting it. And then there's the funny parts that are kind of funny, haha, but also funny sad, where you read the privacy policies and it'll say, hey, if you use these connected services in your car, you consent to all this data being collected, and anybody who becomes a passenger in your car is consented to this privacy policy as well. And it's your duty as the driver of the car to let the passenger know about this privacy policy, which is just ridiculous, right? Nobody picks their buddy up to go to a movie and says, hold on, before we leave, let me read you this privacy policy and make sure you consent to this data collection. That's just not how it works. And so consent is it's a very dark subject. It's a very bad subject when it comes to this, and it needs to be improved.
Absolutely, yeah, it seems very, very disturbing. So have you received any specific responses from consumers after they read your report? What's the vibe that we're getting from the people?
Yeah. So I think the first reaction from people was like, holy cow, what is happening? Which is great because when we were doing the research, that was our reaction too. We're like, holy cow, what's going on? This is really bad. How come no one's talking about it?
over there.
And so, we were really pleased to see that, it wasn't just us that was feeling that way when we put our research out. Like, other people were like, holy cow, I had no idea. And I think that's in part because people don't buy cars without secrecy. And if you bought a car 10 years ago, you might not know that you go to buy a car now and privacy is even something you need to contemplate. And people can't privacy is something they do when they, go car shopping. They have to look at price and affordability and safety and availability. And then, people started sharing their own stories of the car salesman that really pushed them to sign up for things because they would get a bonus if you signed up. We heard lots of stories from people that were trying to opt out and figure out how to opt out and just being really confused about how to do it. And can I disable the cellular data? Well, maybe, but you might void your warranty. Can I ask my dealer to stop doing this? Like, well, the dealer and the car company aren't always on the same page about data collection and data sharing. They're kind of pointing fingers back and forth at each other, so you might not get straight answers. You know, lots of stories like that. Where Toyota, when their lifelong Toyota owner, I think, went to buy a new Toyota.
I don't know how I got that.
And while I was waiting for the vehicle to come in, learned about the privacy concerns, contacted the dealer and said, I didn't know about this, can I opt out? And they were like, well, you can opt out, but it's not like, you're gonna have your data collected probably. And he's like, well, I don't want a car, but they wouldn't give him back his deposit. He got a consumer group involved, and after a lot of back and forth with the dealer and the car company and people pointing fingers, he eventually got his deposit back, but it was a struggle. And so I think the biggest response is people were surprised and shocked and kind of angered, and then asking, well, what can we do? You know, what options do we have? And unfortunately, I'm not able to give consumers a lot of good options, because you can look and do your best to opt out of things and try not to do consent, but again, I worry that it's very confusing, and sometimes consent might not be explicitly asked. You can not download and use the app, which is what I did, but you're giving up to features in your car that people might find very useful. You cannot use the connected services, but you might be paying for them anyways, or you know, you're getting a free trial and not realize that I agree with that free trial, and you might not be able to delete your data. And so what I end up telling people is, you know, it's time for the U.S. to have a strong federal privacy, where people have rights and our companies have to do that.
Yeah, glad I got it hard. And all this stuff. I read recently that, according to a McKinsey report, the monetization of
Finish this bitch! Thank you.
How have the car manufacturers tried to justify this in a positive way? The report, I know, I read in there that there was, you guys mentioned privacy washing in the findings, meaning that they are pretending to protect consumer privacy without actually doing so. I'm wondering what your thoughts on this are.
Yeah, well, the car company's favorite argument about why they need all this data is for safety. Oh, we need all this data for safety. This is just for safety. We're not collecting data to make money off you. We're collecting data for safety. And to be fair, some of the data they collect is for safety. But we think that the amount of data that they collect from point A to point B safely is way more than they need to. And we
should I drop a tower?
Funny that, you know, the car companies.
Should I drop a tower?
We really care about your privacy. And we've created these privacy principles and we've signed on to them. And then you go and read the privacy principles. It's not things they're doing at all. They're not minimizing your data collection. They aren't being very transparent in everything they do. They don't have great consent mechanisms where people's choice is very clear. And so we called them out on that. I think that maybe they would disagree, but I think consumers would probably maybe take a look at those privacy principles and also kind of feel what we're feeling. It's like, no, you're not doing them. Or if you are, you're doing them really cool. Can you do better?
Right, yeah, I know we don't have any type of federal privacy law like this property. Is there any, or have you guys seen any regulatory pressure at all to enact such a law, or is this going to be
I hope it's not just the way things are going forward. It's my job to be pessimistic and optimistic. So, yeah, there's a couple of things afoot. I mean, there is a draft in the federal privacy law that's still in existence, kind of languishing. One of the things that are smart people have gotten involved.
How are they on me like that?
Asking them to clarify questions that they couldn't answer. He was disappointed in the responses and has asked the FCC to step in and use the full force of their investigative power to try and hold the power companies accountable for that. So that's a good step forward. As for the federal privacy law, well, that's something that
galaxy.
I know all the roads. They all lead to the same place. Introducing your champion.
Let's go!
Which means, you know, like, every time I get an opportunity to tell people that they should support this strong consumer federal privacy law, I do it because I think that's what we need. Interestingly, the car companies will also say we need a strong federal, they'll say we need a federal privacy law. I don't think that our version and their version is quite the same, though. One of the reasons they say that is they claim that states having a patchwork of privacy make it really difficult for them. Which kind of makes me chuckle, because I'm like, well, just pick the state with the strongest privacy and apply that to everybody. That seems really easy. But it doesn't seem like something they're keen to.
Yeah, but I do like your mindset right there, being pessimistic and optimistic at the same time. So kudos to you guys. The rest of those are what they're saying. On top of this, where can the audience find more of your work?
Oh yeah, well, privacynotincluded.org is our buyer guide, where you can go and see our car reviews or car reviews for your smart speaker, your fitness tracker, other things. So go there, and if you see something that we didn't review that you'd like to review, we have a link there, and let us know. We love to like hear from people and try and learn what they want. So privacynotincluded.org.
All right, yeah, everybody go check that out, and thank you, Jen, again for coming on the show and reminding us that we are almost always being watched, even in our cars.
We are. Thank you.
This video is brought to you by Nebula. Hi, welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. This is an illustration of what people in 1899 thought the year 2000 would look like. A very accurate depiction of the policeman and firefighter taking to the skies with their paper wings. Clearly, this is exactly the kind of technology we have today. Spot on. But in all seriousness, just think of what the creator of these images would think of the planes we have today. The point is, human flight itself is amazing, and has been ever since it was achieved in 1903. As we started to get the hang of it, humans tried to fly ever faster. But the race to fly faster than sound itself was one of the most thrilling and daring challenges of the 20th century. As planes approached the speed of sound, they behaved strangely. They would buffet, shake, and even just disintegrate. Some unbelievable attempts included a volatile rocket plane and a propeller so powerful that it tried to rotate the very plane that it was attached to. It was a crazy time, but many men did sadly lose their life in the pursuit of supersonic flight. But after humans achieved this feat, the Concorde was the only commercial application. After the Concorde went out of service, it seemed like we collectively just kind of gave up on commercial supersonic flight. Or did we? As you'll see at the end of this episode, there's recently been new life in the sector of commercial supersonic flight. So, today, we'll take a look at the enthralling and dangerous journey of humans breaking the sound barrier, and then we'll finish off with the latest activity in the industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
Lifeline, take that shield, motherfucker.
I'm your...
For those of us with hearing, we're all used to hearing sound every day. But when you think about it, it's blisteringly fast. At sea level, the speed of sound is approximately 1,225 kilometers an hour, or 751 miles per hour. Obviously, supersonic flight refers to flying faster than the speed of sound. But what do we call speeds higher than that? A ratio is used called the Mach number. Mach 1 is equal to the speed of sound. Mach 2 is twice as fast, and so on. So supersonic flight means flying above Mach 1. The man who took this photo is responsible for that term. His name is Ernst Mach, and in 1887, he somehow managed to capture a bullet moving at supersonic speeds. This was the first visual imagery of the shockwave. It allowed scientists to study what happens when an object travels at incredible speeds. Since the advent of human flight, the desire to go faster than a speeding bullet was tempting. For a long time, aeronautical technology only allowed this to remain a curiosity. That was, up until the build-up to World War II.
Fateful hour of 11 has struck, and Britain's final warning to Hitler having been ignored, state of war once more exists between Great Britain and Germany.
Governments and engineers were interested in producing ever faster
Are you getting
planes.
third-partied?
They wanted any advantage they could get in combat.
Come on, my boy!
But there was a major problem. Every plane used propellers to fly. And as it turns out, when a propeller blade aircraft gets close to the speed of sound, the propellers lose their efficiency and sometimes tear themselves apart. Wings would abruptly lose lift, and the control surfaces would stop working. This would effectively cause planes to fall out of the sky. Sometimes, catastrophic failure would occur, and the plane would simply just break up. There was an interesting case of an experimental supersonic propeller aircraft, the Republic XF-84H Thunder Screech. So why was it called such a weird name like Thunder Screech? The plane was so loud that it caused seizures and vomiting for those who were unlucky enough to hear it. It's because the propellers themselves were actually supersonic, and this caused thousands of sonic booms per second. The propeller was so strong that in flight, it tries to rotate the plane instead of the other way around. Of course, this is almost cartoonish, and it was seeming that
Pretty
planes
good.
simply
You should check
couldn't
it
get
out.
any faster.
Are you familiar with Cold Fusion?
Then came the Germans, led
He's
by
my
a certain
favorite
crazy
YouTuber.
man. German engineers were actually the first to explore the possibility of supersonic flight. They wanted to dominate air-to-air combat during World War II.
Are you interested in getting an
One design
education?
was a simple rocket engine with wings basically. It was called the Messerschmitt Me-163.
You can still be
nicknamed
educated and
the
be a
Comet.
garbage
With
man.
its highly volatile fuels, it could reach a speed of 800 kilometers an hour, or about 500 miles an hour. That was enough to outpace anything in the sky.
We
at the
call them
time.
sanitation
However,
engineers.
It still fell short of breaking supersonic speed during level flight. Its rocket-powered
prefer
engine
sanitation
burned through all of
engineers.
its fuel in just 7.5 minutes. During that time, it covered 82 kilometers. The thing was,
They're
it then had to glide
responsible
back
for
to
keeping
base,
your health
often
clean.
under enemy fire. Even worse, the fuel
Except
was
for
so
yours,
highly
'cause you're
corrosive
fucking
that it
dirty.
sometimes burnt the pilots. A prototype Me-163A in 1941, piloted by Heinrich
That's
Dittmar,
fine.
was the first plane to exceed 1,000 kilometers an hour.
Race doesn't
The
exist.
same
It's a
pilot
construct
later
in your
reached
head.
1,130 kilometers an hour, this time in an Me-163B. Although close, this is still below the speed of sound. The Me-163
There's technically
couldn't reach
8
supersonic speed
dimensions.
because it had some major problems, aside from being a death trap. When it got close to the speed of sound, it would shake so violently that the vibrations would cause structural damage. Those same vibrations could lead to a loss of control. German engineers tried to solve this problem, but were ultimately unsuccessful. The Germans weren't the only ones giving it a shot. Back in 1942, while the world was still at war, the British government was desperate to gain an edge over Germany in the air, so they started a secret project. The goal was to make the world's first supersonic aircraft. The project was led by two brothers, George Miles and F.G. Miles. The result was the M52, a jet-powered plane with a bullet-shaped body and short, straight wings. The M52 had a new, all-moving tail, which was needed for high-speed control. The aircraft was meant to fly at 1,000 miles per hour, or Mach 1.4, and reach an altitude of 36,000 feet in just less than 2 minutes. It was a bold and ambitious project, but it faced a whole bunch of engineering problems, and the project kept stalling. We'll catch back up with this team later in the episode. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the Americans were also working on their own supersonic project. They wanted to investigate aerodynamic conditions within the transonic speed range. They wanted to crack the code and be the first to fly faster than the speed of sound. But in order to do this, they needed to build a plane and research what happens when you get close to the speed of sound. Before we get to the
Is someone
plane
shooting
and
at
the
you?
man who broke the sound barrier, a question has to be asked.
Bro, what are you doing?
Why do so many things
I
go
was
so
eating.
wrong when you try to pass the speed of sound? As an object nears the speed of sound, air molecules compress, and it creates
What are
a
you
shock
doing?
wave,
You
the very
loser.
same type of wave that Ernst Mach took a photo of in 1887. This wave causes a
Yeah, there's a
sudden
team
rise
up
in
here.
temperature and
You're an
pressure.
idiot.
This affects the object's aerodynamics and stability. The phenomenon leads to less lift, more drag, violent vibrations. This was a new realm that needed a solid field. Scientists like Ernst Mach had some ideas and equations.
We would love to know how that guy's hitting me if he's not up here.
But it took decades of hard work by researchers from different countries to really figure it out. Among the pioneers in this field was John Stack, the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or NACA, predecessor of NASA. Through years of painstaking research, collaboration with other aerodynamicists, John
Did you like how many shots I blew into your body?
Like using thinner wing cross-sections and swept back wings. Models showed that this improved efficiency and stability near Mach 1 speeds. He published his work in the 1930s and 40s. It was brilliant and laid down the groundwork for high-speed aerodynamics. After the Second World War, the Americans captured German documents. They revealed they were working on some unconventional aircraft designs, exploring
Did I break him or did he dead?
as well as utilizing rocket engines and other peculiar methods. Were the German scientists out of their minds, or were they onto something remarkable? Around this time, the US government contracted Bell Aircraft to find out. Their mission was to test what happens when an aircraft reaches that tricky speed of between Mach 0.8 and Mach 1.2, a speed range called transonic. Did they succeed where others failed?
On my backside, where you guys at?
Now that the Germans were out of the race,
Oh yeah, I wasn't either.
to see who could
He's dropping on you. Drop to you. There's two there.
By looking at the orange-colored Bell X1, it looked remarkably similar to the M52. So, some British homework had been stolen, but the bullet shape wasn't just a look
God,
good.
I died.
It provided stability and low drag at supersonic speeds. It also had short, straight wings, just like the M52. Interestingly, captured German documents suggested that swept wings would be better suited for supersonic flight, but at the time, they weren't well understood, so the X1 engineers chose the same wings as the British. Speaking of the British, how were they going? Across the pond, the M52 design was nearly complete by 1944, and Miles had received orders to build 3 prototypes. The test pilot chosen was the most decorated pilot in British history, Captain Eric Winkle Brown. With 400 different aircraft under his belt, Brown was sure that he could fly the M52 to its limit and break the sound barrier. Little did the British know that a deceptive deal would soon rob them of their hard efforts. In 1944, British and American governments signed an agreement to exchange high-speed research and data. But unfortunately, the Americans cheated. According to Dennis Bancroft, Miles Aircraft chief aerodynamicist, the Americans visited...
I had to do this instead.
They saw the drawings and research in the M52, and the British were happy to share the details with them. But in return, the Americans didn't share any
almost dead.
of the project. The deal massively helped the Americans, but the British got nothing in return. Unaware of the ongoing developments, British engineers at Miles kept working on the M52 project. They were at it for 2 years. Then, in a startling turn of events, the English government abruptly cancelled the project at the beginning of 1946. And this was just weeks before the first scheduled flight of the M52. The official reason cited doubts about its feasibility and safety, though some historians speculate there were additional factors. Budget cuts or external pressure may have played a role. The cancellation of the M52 project was devastating to George Miles and his team. They had worked tirelessly for 4 years on the Dream project. They felt betrayed by their own government and their American so-called allies. The cancellation also meant that Eric Brown lost his chance to become the first man to break the sound barrier. He later said that he was, quote, bitterly disappointed by that decision. The Americans continued with their X-1 project, now without any interference or competition from the British. In 1946, they already began test gliding. Jack Willems, who had completed the test flights, was unfortunately killed in an unrelated incident in his own test aircraft. Willems's death was a sad tragedy and a setback that would delay the supersonic flight. Testing would soon resume, however, with a new pilot, Chalmers Slick Goodwin. He completed 26 flights, including glides and subsonic tests. However, he never got to fly supersonic. The Air Force took over the testing from Bell because they were unhappy with the slow progress. Goodwin was then replaced with First Lieutenant Chuck Yeager. Born in 1923 in West Virginia, Yeager joined the U.S. Army Air Force in 1941. He was a fighter pilot in World War II, where he flew P-51 Mustangs and shot down 12 enemy planes, including 5 in one day. He also survived being shot down over France and escaped with the help of the French resistance. He seemed like the perfect man for the job. In the lead-up to the historic flight, Yeager wasted no time. In August of 1947, he began glide test flights, and then swiftly progressed to powered flights by month's end. The Air Force's strategy was different to Bell's. They wanted to get things done quickly, whereas Bell wanted to go for a gradual speed increase. They gave Yeager full permission to push the boundaries of the aircraft towards Mach 1. On October 10th, he reached a remarkable speed of Mach 0.997. So close. Everything was in place now. Yeager was ready. He even named the aircraft Glamorous Glennis after his wife. But then, just a few days before the historic flight, something unexpected happened. Yeager would break 2 of his ribs in a horse riding accident. But he wasn't going to miss this opportunity for the world. He was going to etch his name in history, so he decided to hide his injuries from his superiors. On October 14, 1947, the stage was set. It was a dry lake bed in California's Mojave Desert. B-29 bomber carried the X-1 into the sky. Inside, Chuck Yeager held onto a modified broom handle that he used for his injury, closed the cockpit door. The X-1 smoothly glided past the bomb bay doors, and with a blast, its rocket engine ignited. This unique launch provided an exhilarating boost to 250 miles per hour. Under Yeager's skillful guidance, the Glamorous Glennis climbed 43,000 feet. Engineers on the ground held their breath. They were fearful of aircraft instability. If anything went wrong, it would be lethal. Watched with bated breath as Yeager flew past Mach 1.06, experiencing only bow shock and resulting in a sonic boom. With that loud and glorious thunder, Yeager had made history. He was the first person to fly supersonic.
I got him! One behind me, one behind me, one behind me!
Captain Yeager, flew the X-1 faster than the speed of sound in level flight. Date, October 14, 1947.
Need to recharge my shield.
But it wouldn't be so clean-cut.
He's going back up, he's going back up.
An American pilot also
Pick
claimed
me up.
to break the sound barrier with his F-86 Sabre. First American swept-wing fighter jet. Welch allegedly flew supersonic on October 1st, 1947, 2 weeks before Yeager. Although there were anecdotal reports of sonic booms being heard on the ground, this claim was disputed due to a lack of concrete evidence and data. Yeager, on the other hand, had a multitude of instruments and observations on his speed, so he is officially credited. Meanwhile, Miles' aircraft...
Why wouldn't you pick the lifeline up first?
The M52 model. After a failed attempt in 1947, they successfully reached supersonic speed with their final model.
Why don't you pick the lifeline up so that he can then pick the other guy up while we're fighting?
Too late. When the Bell X-1 had overshadowed
Come on.
Even
Come
though
on,
the
what?
sound was defeated, Chuck Yeager would still keep pushing
You didn't do the right play.
In December 1953, in a Bell X-1A, Chuck attempted to maneuver the aircraft at Mach 2.44. This caused the plane to enter an internal coupling event, which essentially means his plane flew violently out of control, resulting in a tumbling, spinning descent. Somehow, he managed to recover the aircraft, and then glide back to base and landed safely. Other pilots would die due to the same design flaw. It really does show how good of a pilot Chuck Yeager was. The news of Yeager's supersonic flight leaked, despite attempts to keep it under wraps. The authorities wanted to protect their military and technological edge in the post-war era. An anonymous source tipped off the press. The Los Angeles Times reported it on December 22, 1947. The authorities continued denying and downplaying the achievement until June of 1948, when Yeager flew again, faster and higher in the same X-1. He flew at Mach 1.45, breaking his previous achievement and setting new world records. The news of supersonic flight caught the public's imagination and sparked a wave of interest. Yeager and his team would be hailed heroes and received several awards and honors. The Bell X-1 became an icon of supersonic flight and was donated to the Smithsonian Institution in 1950, where it's still on display today. As great as it was for the team, you can't help but feel for the British engineers who worked for 4 years only to get their work stolen. Regardless, the event encouraged many young people to pursue careers in aerodynamics, in aerospace engineering, and it inspired a whole new generation of pilots. So, what was the fastest plane humans ever made? Well, it might surprise you that the speed record for a level flight aircraft was set all the way back on the 3rd of October 1967. It was a North American X-15. It got to a top speed of 4,520 miles per hour, or 7,274 kilometers an hour. So going so fast, here's some imagery of the damage caused by just the air rushing past. Unbelievable. Fun fact, a few years earlier in 1962, Neil Armstrong, famous astronaut, would fly an X-15 to a speed of 3,989 miles per hour, or 6,420 kilometers an hour. A few months earlier, in another test flight, his X-15 ran out of fuel. It descended and bounced off the Earth's atmosphere, throwing him 50 miles off course.
Armstrong was falling back to Earth fast, and for several thousand feet, he couldn't maneuver the aircraft because of the thin atmosphere. Finally, he fell far enough that he could turn the X-15 and point it back towards Edwards Air Force Base, where he made an eventual safe landing.
From the 1960s onwards in the military, there was gradual innovation in regards to supersonic aviation. Some classic examples include 1964 North American XB-70 Valkyrie. It was a bomber that could cruise at Mach 3 for thousands of miles. Only 2 were ever made. And this is a crazy story, but one of them sadly crashed when an escorting jet rolled and flew into the tail structure of the Valkyrie. So why was this jet flying so close? Because General Electric, who made the Valkyrie's engines, wanted a cool photo shoot for an hour. After this accident, it was basically the end of the project. Then, there's also the 1966 Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird, one of the most iconic aircraft. While it was in service till 1999, it was used for aerial reconnaissance, and it could reach speeds of up to Mach 3.2. Another classic is the 1986 Rockwell B-1 Lancer, a variable wing heavy bomber that could cruise at Mach 1.2. And then of course, there's a plethora of fighter jets, like the 1997 F-22 Raptor and the 2006 F-35 Lightning II, both built by Lockheed Martin. The Russians had their MiG series. The French company Dassault released a few jets. Sweden's Saab had many notable examples too. So that's all in the military, but what about the civilian side of things?
Dropped an enemy. I'll give them a piercing or two. Recharging shield.
As you've just seen, the first supersonic flight ignited a new era of innovations in the field. Many new models were built and flown, and the aviation industry thrived. So not knowing any better, for a person in the past, it would be natural to think that commercial supersonic flights would exist today. But it doesn't. Well, of course, there have been some attempts in the past. You've all heard of the Concorde. It was a supersonic passenger airline service, flying from 1976 to 2003. It began as a joint venture in 1956 between France and England. It crossed the Atlantic in less than half the time of a conventional aircraft. The Concorde was famously retired in 2003 after a fatal accident. Debris on the tarmac punctured a tire, which in turn caused a fire under one of the wings. The plane subsequently crashed into a hotel, killing 109 people on the plane and 4 on the ground.
For the first time in more than 30 years in its history, a Concorde has crashed. And that's where we start. It was an Air France Concorde chartered by a German tour company. It had just taken off from Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris when something cataclysmic happened in at least one of the 4 engines. In this picture, you can see a long stream of smoke and fire as the pilot struggled to gain altitude. He failed. And when the plane crashed in the grounds of a small rural hotel in Gonesse, just outside Paris, 100 passengers, mostly German, 1 American, 9 crew, all French, and 4 people on the ground were killed.
What's lesser known is that the Americans also tried their hand, and in 1961, the US government awarded Boeing, and Lockheed Martin contracts to build supersonic aircraft. Budget cuts killed both projects in the 1970s. The former Soviet Union entered the race with the Tu-144, and that's worth a mention. An interesting note is that it was the world's first supersonic transport aircraft, flying 2 months before the Concorde in 1968. Although sources debate whether it was an original design or stolen through espionage, the Tu-144 outperformed the Concorde and reached a top speed of Mach 2.15. But that's about where the positives end. The aircraft was plagued with poor handling and engine reliability, as well as high fuel consumption. Then, in 1973, tragedy would strike. At a Paris air show, a Tu-144 crashed fatally, killing all 6 crew members and 8 people on the ground. And this was in front of 250,000 spectators. The accident ruined the aircraft's business prospects. Potential customers became very wary of its safety and performance. So, what went wrong with commercial supersonic transport? Well, basically, the planes were extremely expensive to make and maintain. They were fuel-hungry and loud, and routine sonic booms cause health concerns and environmental concerns. It can cause stress to people and animals, and even damage.
Can't really do anything right now.
These factors have led to the prohibition of routine supersonic flight over many land countries. But on the brighter side, there are some new ongoing efforts to revive supersonic transport. Companies like Boom Technology
Can maybe rat on the head.
Symphony is a new propulsion system for supersonic flight. Boom-led development with world-class partners.
And Spike Aerospace.
So is that the main technological challenge you're trying to overcome? Is the sonic boom, or is it the efficiency end of it? What is it?
It's actually both of it. I mean, you can fly fast. There's no problem doing it. Military jets do it all the time, right? But they're burning a lot of fuel. And that's just not going to work for flying fast as from New York to London or London to Hong Kong. You got to be able to fly at a reasonable cost, and you got to be able to fly without making a sonic boom, without disturbing people on the ground. It's a very loud, disturbing sound, and that's critical. And that's what Spike Aerospace has been developing technology to cut that sonic boom down tremendously.
Working on new supersonic aircraft with improved efficiency and reduced noise. NASA and Lockheed Martin are collaborating on a project called the X-59 Quest. It aims to demonstrate quieter supersonic travel with drastically reduced sonic booms. It was officially unveiled in January of 2024 and will take its first flight later this year.
Behold, our stunning X-59. What a unique aircraft. The challenges of sonic booms accompanying supersonic flight. We talked a little bit about it. So this design is really critical in dispersing shock waves, which today shocks are formed around the aircraft and then they merge together to give that boom. By designing it to disperse those, they never merge together. And that's how they solve this problem.
It's hoped that the design lessons learned from this aircraft will enable quiet supersonic travel in the future. And last, but definitely not least, is Hermeus, an American company that aims to make hypersonic jets that can travel at Mach 5. First for military applications, and then later for commercial travel.
You'd be kind of naive to go try and build a 20-passenger Mach 5 aircraft right off the bat. The number of technical challenges, between where we stand today and there are many. We take a very iterative approach to development that's focused on getting to hardware very quickly.
We have the opportunity to pull in significant private dollars alongside government investment to solve pressing national security challenges. This government partnership helps us to incrementally de-risk the tech and solve problems for our customer while marching down the roadmap towards commercial flight.
Check out the YouTube channel Real Engineering's video for more info on the topic. We'll have to wait and see if any of these projects become a reality, but it's just cool to know that there are people out there working hard to make them become a reality. So, the race to supersonic flight is frantic and fraught with danger, and even betrayal, beginning with the desperation of war and culminating in engineers taming the untamable. It was supposed to be the apex of future travel, but so far, reality has dictated the outcome. But maybe not for long. You could say that air travel is safer because of the discoveries made along the way. But the human sacrifice to get to such a point shouldn't be forgotten. I found this whole story so interesting. I just wanted to cover it. I know it's not going to be for everyone, but I hope that you did like it too. Hopefully, we'll see supersonic travel once again over the next few decades. So what do you guys think? Do you think we'll have supersonic passenger aircraft in our lifetimes? Or will it forever be a pipe dream? Let me know in the comment section below. Here's a quick word from today's sponsor, Nebula. Nebula is a streaming platform for creators and by creators. Started as a way to free creators from the limitations of YouTube, the company has become one of the most interesting and fastest
didn't know you were hot
growing
dropping me.
media platforms on the internet. If you're particularly interested in thought-provoking content, Nebula is a great place to discover exclusive
I was trying to pack
and
a
original
bowl
content
so I
from
could get high
creators you
before
may
I
be familiar
played
with.
this round, but you know.
For example, I covered a couple of aviation stories on Cold Fusion recently, and out of interest, I was looking at some content on Nebula. Stumbled on this exclusive by Neo on the Tenerife disaster, the worst crash in aviation history. There's also a lot of other interesting shows, like Modern Conflicts by Real Life Law, which goes into the depths of geopolitics. Or there's The Logistics
There's two
of
people
Death,
on me, but
which covers the minute details of planning and organization
don't
behind
come
some
here.
of the biggest global projects. Nebula also recently got their biggest update ever. The homepage has a new look and an improved UI, so you can find content based on categories like news, culture, science, history, and more.
They're hurt, but
You can
yeah,
watch Cold
there's
Fusion
nothing I can do.
videos
Now their
ad
lifeline's
free,
here. Get the fuck
and
out
that
of
goes
here.
for every creator on Nebula. Right now, for a limited time,
Yeah.
Nebula is selling
Do not
lifetime
come
memberships that will last as long as both you and Nebula exist. You pay $300
Yeah,
once,
run.
and that's it.
Run,
no monthly fee
Forrest.
or anything
Go
else.
craft somewhere
You'll have
where it's
access
safe.
forever. Click the link below to get started. Clicking the link helps support Cold Fusion.
They're
So
now
thank
fighting
you.
another team, third
And
party,
that is
the
the
team that
story
killed our other
of
buddies.
Supersonic.
Not fighting
I want to thank you for watching the whole way through. If you did like this and want to see anything on science, technology, or business, feel free to subscribe to Cold Fusion. My name is Tagogo, and I'll catch you again soon for the next episode. Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Scrappy DP says, Auntie.
I don't know where the hell he came from.
Enemy here.
Fusion. It's new thinking.
Hi and welcome back to a new video. Today we will look at this XMG Neo 16 notebook, which is the 2024 model. So that's the latest revision. XMG has been using this external water cooling solution to Oasis for several years, but now I think it's getting more and more mature. They did again some changes to the connector for the water cooling connection to the notebook itself, but also some internal revisions for how the water that's something I want to observe in today's video. But also there's, to me, this very interesting aspect that this is a pre-production that comes with the Honeywell phase change pad. In the production, this notebook comes with liquid metal applied between the CPU and the cooler, and also the GPU and the cooler. But because this is a pre-production sample, they didn't have time or something, and they used the Honeywell pad. So this gives me the opportunity to check out the benefits of liquid metal, if there are benefits, because a lot of people ask me this on like my Discord and stuff, what the temperature difference could be between those different cooling solutions, but I personally never checked this out. So that is a quite cool opportunity. And then we just want to see what kind of benefit we get with the external water cooling unit and what kind of changes they made to the cooling solution. This video is powered by Seasonic with their MacFlow fans. These non-RGB fans combine both a low noise level and at the same time high airflow. In addition, they come with the perfect daisy chaining cable management system. Depending on your requirements, you can connect a different amount of fans directly with each other. For example, 2 or 3 fans for water cooling on a radiator. The fans are held together with a magnetic system which is extremely strong and also electrically connects the fans. With additional adapters, you can extend this even further. So for example, 2 fans on top of your PC for the AIO and a 3rd fan as case exhaust fan. Find out more about the Seasonic MacFlow fans. When it comes to hardware, we have a 4900HX CPU built in and an RTX 4090 laptop GPU that obviously has a little bit less power than a normal 4090 that you build inside your desktop system. We have a 2560 x 1600 pixel and 240 Hz 16-inch monitor, so that's also, I would say, a very solid base for gaming.
There's a
but
team
if you look
there?
at the max power consumption that XMG is allowing, I think it's like 200 or 205 watts on the CPU and 175 watts on the GPU. So if you would load both of them fully, in theory that's almost 400 watts, which is definitely massive and probably too much for any kind of air-cooled cooling solution that is typically built in a notebook, and I guess that's why the external water cooling is necessary. I just ran Cinebench ARC23 for the German video take. As you know, I'm shooting every video twice, so I also have to repeat all the testing twice. You can see my stock condition is 32,600 points. That's about maybe 6,000 points less than a 4900K vessel system. Just going to repeat it now. And just want to take a look at power limits. You can see the limit is 205. If we monitor the power consumption, then it's also starting rather high, like power consumption.
He's hurt, he's broke right here. He's healing, he's healing, he's healing.
Allows the CPU to draw, which is then also leading to the kind of score we could see, like 38 points in ARC23 for no.
You guys are not even communicating at all.
So repeating the test, like 400 points less, that's probably just normal fluctuation. But
What can I do? You dropped me there, I asked if there was people there.
Quite drastic drop in the power consumption, which is probably caused by the CPU being not cool enough, and probably because the stock air cooling solution cannot.
Your teammate asked if there's people there, and you don't even respond, and then we just die. Cool.
Peak temperature on this package of 100 degrees Celsius. I'm now going to run 10 minutes of ARC23 to see at which power consumption this ends, like how much heat can the air cooling continuously dissipate. So at that point, after like 5-6 minutes, it doesn't really matter anymore what kind of PL1 or PL2 you're setting, because you can see it's still set at 205 watt. But if we check the CPU package power, it is between like 120 and 130 watt, which is just limited by the air cooling solution inside the notebook. That's why I'm repeating the ARC23 again to see what kind of real performance we would see after the heat is saturated. So the result, we lost about 10 to 12% of performance. That's why I think that this entire concept with notebooks and connectable water cooling is quite interesting, because I think if you have it stationary at home and you can still use this is still usable while you're traveling somewhere, but once you get back to your stationary system and connect it, then you should be able to get more performance. Another thing is with gaming in this condition without the water cooling, we will have to probably split the 120 to 130 watt power draw between the CPU and the GPU, which should lead to a drop in performance. That's what I want to check now with gaming. In the XMG control center, you can select different profiles. I know it's German now, but you should be able to understand it. So there are different profiles like balance, enthusiast, and overboost. I'm testing everything in overboost because this should give us the highest performance. I have to say in the state, so I waited a little bit for warm-up period. This is pretty loud. With the stock condition, the CPU is clocking somewhere just below 40 Hz and up to like 4.5 on the peak cores, while the GPU is sitting at about 82 degrees Celsius and clocks between typically 2300 and close to 2400 MHz. We have FPS of around 180 on average and about 100 in the 1% low, so that's definitely an enjoyable rate to play PUBG in this setting. On the CPU peak cores, we see temperatures between 85 and like 95 degrees Celsius. And this is the small XMG Oasis water cooling unit that contains reservoir, a radiator, and fan. As you can see through this side, I still have a filled reservoir, which you can do through this thing on top. And on the side, we have the connections. So one inlet for the CPU power. I think you just connect the normal PSU here from your notebook, and then with an additional cable you route it through and then back to your notebook. And here we have the connection port for the water cooling. This would be the tubing with the quick connect ports. So just magnetic, put it on, that's basically it. I think they could have made something in addition for at least a stationary unit to always make sure that this is always safely attached. It's probably fine as well. And on that side that goes to the notebook, they changed something, at least I didn't see it before. So this is this additional small metal piece on top. And from what I've seen, it is still guided with the magnets to the ports, but then this additional thing just clicks in and keeps it more securely in place. And that's it.
Enemy real close. About time to fight.
Is it normal that the fan is not spinning? Not sure if I'm missing something. I mean, there's only this one button I can see in the front.
Are you Jason?
So according to the manual, the blue blinking LED in front indicates that Bluetooth is not connected. And in Control Center I could find it as connectable, and now I will try to connect it. So something happened because I can definitely hear a pump running. Yeah, seems much better. I'm not quite sure, this seems to be a bit buggy. Now it's changing, but not always. Like this is like quiet profile, high performance, maximum. But you can see or maybe also hear it, not sure if you can hear it. But now it's not, yeah, now it's running on the max.
Recharging my shields, cuzzies.
Seems a bit buggy for whatever reason. But okay. I also cannot like change and select this fan, this pump, but I cannot select them independently and select specific RPM or something. Yeah. So we're trying again Cinebench with water cooling connected. The CPU is still quickly hitting the limit of about 96 degrees Celsius. We can definitely see a difference, so even though it's just the first quick run without heat up, it's again 32k points, so there's no big difference. But we can definitely see a difference in the CPU power consumption, because at the end of the previous test, we were seeing like 140 watt-ish, and now it's still in the region of like 200. The water cooling solution is definitely helping. Previously we saw like 120 to 130 watt, maybe 140. Now we can see up to 180 and lowest is like 140. So we see an improvement of about 20 to 50 watts. That is definitely. Now after the warm-up period, we will repeat Cinebench as a single test again. Previously, we had about
I took the one out.
Points after warm-up phase. And now we're close to 30,000.
I'm trying to. I'm gonna get off the backside. He's on the ground over here.
German take. When I realized there is some water on my desk, which is probably not good. I was about to say that I could subjectively hear that at least the fan is slightly running slower, which means that there is this benefit of like the cooling and then the notebook not being as loud, but yeah. Maybe we have a tiny problem here. I don't really think that it's leaking by itself, but it's probably because I moved the laptop once in a while, or like moved this a little bit, because if I just move the connector on the back a little bit, you can see it straight starts to leak. That's what I meant earlier, where I had the feeling that this is a little bit loose. It should maybe have the same thing as this one in the back, that it has like an additional clip, or I don't know, a different mechanism, just not only magnets, some screw or whatever, because yeah, not ideal. As you can see, that's what I mean. It's a little bit loose, and if I just move it a little bit like that, at least there was a drop of water. Yeah. Here we go. So yeah. If you probably never touch it and make sure you don't touch this, then it's maybe not a problem, but yeah, not a fan. So now again, it's not connected via Bluetooth, which means that I have to reconnect it every single time over the software. It says something with liquid state error, maybe because I disconnected it on the back and there was no flow. So I'm just going to connect it again. Okay. You know, I mean, you're once in a while moving your notebook, it might not always be in the same location, and then the tubing will move a little bit. I would not trust this as a normal user to never leak. Yeah. I also don't understand why someone put more effort into RGB than like adding a fan control. I probably won't care as much if this is blinking or not, but I would like to, you know, not have the pump at max speed, but maybe have the fan spinning a little bit, but it's nothing I can change. It is a significant improvement in gaming. We see pretty much all the time.
You want a shield? I got a shield for you.
Stable, and we can see an improvement in FPS by about 10 to 15 both on
The one I have.
1% lows. And also the GPU definitely improved. We can now see stable 2445 megahertz on the GPU. It is much colder.
That's all I got.
3 degrees Celsius colder and much higher top. So yeah, I'm impressed with how much it changes in gaming. We will now proceed to open it, check out the interior cooling solution, and also then swap the paste to liquid metal. The water routing definitely changed. In the previous model, I just saw some pictures online. they basically just put a copper tube on top of the heatsink or on top of the heat pipes, whereas now this inlet right here, inlet and outlet, the water will just go around the GPU and the CPU and sits inside this on the bottom right here. So it's completely different design and much better than having just a copper tube on top of the heat pipe. That was a huge struggle. I removed all the screws, but it was sticking so extreme to the surface. I'm not sure why. I started like removing it from the back here, lift it up, trying not to break
I
things.
found all of it.
Hey there, let's smash him.
Well, I am completely confused. If this is not liquid metal, then I don't know what it is. This is weird. This is really weird. I mean, they sent it to me saying, or the reason why they sent it to me is because they said there's the Honeywell pattern.
I just got hit.
I can apply liquid metal myself, make it ready, you know, add this, you can see there's this foam around the view to protect it, to make sure that the liquid metal is not leaking. They even sent me this kit where this frame is included. Now I'm confused. I just double checked my entire email loop to be sure that I didn't make a mistake, but yeah, this should not be liquid metal. They said that liquid metal will be available end of March, and I'm shooting this end of February, so this doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I think I would just probably reapply liquid metal with you guys, because I think, I mean, just looking at the application could be improved. I took some data before taking it apart, so a Cinebench R23 run, so we can double check if it was a problem or not with the application, or if this is just from, yeah, taking it apart, and then that's probably almost the end of the video. So I think we just add in a little bit of cat content. Just for the loss of the content I was waiting for.
Replicator on its way down.
At least we could see that there's plenty of liquid metal applied on both a CPU and GPU, which is usually not a problem. That's what they always do on notebooks, and it's protected by the foam frame, so that should be okay. I'm not quite sure about the heatsink application though, because it seems to me that it was not applied on here. Typically this kind of interest that we see on here and here only happens if you don't pre-apply it on the cooler surface as well. Because it's strongly recommended to, yeah, apply it on both the surface to break the surface tension of the liquid metal to improve the connection to the material. Seems not to be done here. I will just try to reapply it now with the material.
Oh my god, yeah, well, clearly not, because I just got destroyed by both of them.
Yeah, you got sniped from the back by Kraber, I'm guessing.
No, I didn't. I got shot by two people from the front. They're coming down to kill me right now.
On contact surfaces, I know that there is still the excess spill of the material, but that's really no problem. I'm just going to put it back on there, and yeah, due to the frame, that's really no issue. Everything back assembled, laptop is back up and running, and also this time the water cooling unit connected itself without me having to go into the control center. So it's getting better. So I'm doing another Cinebench R23 comparison run. I think first look, the temperatures were better with the freshly applied liquid metal, even though the score didn't really change. But that's something I will look into now. I have quite interesting, but at the same time confusing test results. What I can say for sure is that both CPU and GPU are running much colder. You can definitely see that. The GPU is constantly staying below 70 degrees Celsius. CPU is also staying colder, but you can also see, if you closely observe it, that the CPU is clocking lower than before. I'm not quite sure why that is the case. Is this maybe because on the CPU measured over the entire Cinebench R23 run of about 35 megahertz. That is measurable yet almost neglectable in any kind of application. This video definitely turned out different than I expected. We were not able to test the Honeywell versus liquid metal comparison because suddenly liquid metal is pre-applied, but not in a perfect application. As you could see, it was not applied on the cooler. I'm pretty sure about that because it just would look different. And you can also see that after doing it properly, you can see, yeah, a benefit in temperatures. That is always something I'm sometimes wondering about because I know that they are using Grizzly Conductor Out. but why are they not talking to us and ask how you should apply it? That is sometimes something I'm wondering about. That happened multiple times before. I mean, it's kind of common knowledge in our industry, in our bubble, that liquid metal has to be applied on both surfaces. It's also written in the instruction, so I'm not quite sure why they don't do it. Going over to the entire concept itself, I like the fact that to dissipate more heat, to make your notebook more quiet. Yeah, a difficult aspect, because now the pump is running in the quiet mode, quiet state, which I personally think is still too loud. But I cannot regulate it manually. And I also cannot independently regulate pump and fan, which is quite odd. I'm not quite sure why that's not possible. If I want higher cooling, I can only set it to maximum, which then pushes the pump to max speed, and that it's way too loud. Max speed is way too loud. I would like, yeah, lower pump speed, but then maybe higher fan speed for better heat dissipation, but that's just not possible. Then there's the problem with connecting the tubing. I see the point why they made it so easy to connect and disconnect it with magnets and like just hold it on there and quickly release it. That makes sense on the laptop side, but why would you do this on the stationary side?
Let's make a
Doesn't
choice.
really make any kind
Land
of
here.
sense. And you could see that, at least for me, I just moved it a little bit and I straight had a leakage. Why would you do that? Why would you not have some kind of mechanism on here that locks the tubing to the stationary unit? Just have any kind of clip. I mean, it doesn't have to be a screw. It could be a screw, but you could only have a clip that latches in and, yeah, just stops it from disconnecting. It would be very easy, but in this state, there is always the risk that if you remove something, that you have some kind of leak. I don't get it. There's one more thing we didn't talk about at all, and this is this tiny plastic piece, which is meant for draining the water cooling loop of the notebook. Because if you read through the manual, XMG strongly recommends to not use the notebook after disconnecting it from the water cooling loop without draining. They say whenever you remove it from the water cooling loop, you have to drain whatever is left in the notebook, because they cannot guarantee that it doesn't spill. There's just a tiny rubber gasket in the back for those connectors, and they say they cannot guarantee that this part is not leaking, so they always advise you to drain it, which is absolutely annoying. And also, I mean, you could just have something covering the ports. Why not just have a cover that goes on top that stops it from draining? Would be so much more convenient, and I don't know. That doesn't make any kind of sense, and it's very annoying. I would never on a daily basis use this, take it with me, put it back and drain it every single time. No way I would do that. In the end, you have to keep in mind that these things are not quite cheap, and those are high-end units. And keeping that in mind, I personally would expect a smoother
There's a fight over their
experience,
tabs.
like
Don't be
things
going
to
in
be
that.
more thought out, and yeah, the software to be more mature, have more options besides RGB. Meanwhile, a few weeks later, because I took the time to send the video to XMG first, so they have the opportunity to also give me a statement on some of my critics that I pointed out in the video. The first thing they don't agree with is one statement that I said at the beginning of my video, that about 120 to 130 watts will relate to the entire cooling solution. I'm totally with XMG here, because I was just testing CPU only scenario, and in that scenario it was just 120 to 130 watts. The cooling solution could dissipate for the CPU, but that was CPU alone and not including the GPU, and because of the higher power density of the CPU, it is more difficult for a notebook to cool the CPU alone than also the GPU, which has a lower power density. Then I tested this again with a Cyberpunk normal gaming load, and I saw about 65 to 70 watt on the CPU and about 145 to 160 watt on the GPU. So yeah, if you have a normal gaming scenario with air cooling alone, it can definitely dissipate more than 200 watts. The next big part is regarding the fan and pump control, which is not manually possible. And XMG generally speaks about that without automatic control, they could run into temperature problems and also problems with problematic relation of the fan speed in the notebook and the fan speed in the AIO. So it could not be as balanced maybe if you run it manually. They also point out that you cannot rely fully on external water cooling, because the fan is still needed to have some airflow inside the notebook for cooling of some other components. And in idle, the fan is not spinning on the water cooling because the temperatures of the notebook are low. I can partially understand XMG's view on pump and fan control, but I also partially don't agree with it. Because from my opinion, this is an enthusiast product, and enthusiasts should have the opportunity to adjust fan and pump speed. Let's talk about the idle scenario, where XMG says that the fan is not spinning because it's not necessary. But yeah, in some scenarios, the fan inside the notebook in idle is still spinning and you can hear it. So I see the point that if you would try to have this fan spinning at a very low RPM in idle, it would definitely assist the cooling inside the notebook. Like, if you touch it, it would feel colder, and also it would be more quiet, because this fan, the cheaper fan, can spin at a lower RPM and be more quiet than the fan inside the notebook. So that's, from my perspective, kind of a missed opportunity. And you also have to keep in mind that this is just an additional cooling to what is already inside the notebook. We know that with air cooling, the notebook works fine. So if you can cool it better, the CPU and GPU can clock
Tab
higher.
says,
So that
useless
means
as
if you
F.
mess around with the cooling solution and you do something so the water cooling is maybe not as efficient, it just means that the CPU and GPU will not clock as high. It's not going to damage the notebook because it's running fine in the air-cooled scenario. And any nowadays notebook and CPU and GPU are just thermally limited.
Sang Neon says,
if you
lifeline.
mess around with the cooling, it might
Sang
just
Neon
not clock as
says,
high, but I
how
don't
useless
see
are you?
how it's going to damage it. Regarding the liquid metal application, XMG says
I
that
guess
this
we'll
is
find
fine,
out.
but I cannot really agree with that because we did a lot of testing with this, that you have to have it applied to both surfaces to get the perfect wetting and the perfect thermal transfer. Otherwise, from my opinion,
Tab
it doesn't
says,
really make sense to
ELS
use
don't
liquid
play
metal
this game
because
if you are
liquid metal
gonna
has
play like P.
disadvantages over a normal conventional thermal paste. It's conductive,
Don't worry,
it's
I'll
more
never pair up with
expensive,
you
it
again.
takes a more complex process to apply it, so you should make sure that the result is as good as possible, that you're making up versus the risks that are involved with liquid metal. And yeah, not applying it on both surfaces, if you lose like maybe 2 or 3 degrees Celsius, then you might as well just use a very good thermal paste and it's like 1 degree worse. That's just my opinion on it. I think this should be improved. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Enjoy your Sunday. Bye bye.
Lifeline, you're a useless piece of shit like your mom.
Wow, cool.
Flip the switch and the light turns on. Yeah, you might say. This is a causality. Lights don't turn on by themselves and then make switches flip. And that sounds all well and fine, except quantum physics screws it up. In quantum physics, lights can turn on and make switches flip in some sense, and as if that wasn't crazy enough,
Sang Neon
physicists
says,
now saying
useless
that you
F.
can actually use
Thanks.
that to build better computers. Have a look. Quantum particles can be in 2 places at once. We call this a superposition of 2 places. That's definitely weird, but it gets weirder. The mass of quantum mechanics says that this shouldn't just be the case for small particles. In principle, it could happen for anything. Molecules, bananas, cats. This
Yep,
is why
can't go there
Schrödinger
now.
was going on about dead in the life cats, because it's there in the mathematics of quantum mechanics. So why don't we ever see dead and alive cats? It's because for large objects like bananas or cats, these quantum effects disappear very quickly due to tiny interactions with air molecules or the cosmic microwave background. This is called decoherence and is the reason why the quantum typical behavior only shows up for small objects if you measure quickly enough. Okay, we only observe it for small objects, but in quantum physics, things can be in 2 places at the same time indeed. And if a thing that's in 2 places has a mass, then it has a gravitational pull. And that gravitational pull, according to Einstein, means that space-time itself curves, which then affects the motion of other objects. The often used analogy is that a heavy ball on a rubber sheet seems to attract other balls towards it, even though it's really just the curvature of the sheet that makes it happen. But how does space-time curve if a massive particle is in 2 places at once? Well, we don't know. For this, we need what physicists call a theory of quantum gravity that describes the quantum properties of space and time. However, most physicists think that in any such theory of quantum gravity, space-time itself
would exist in superpositions, so it would do two things at the same time. And if that's right, that has some very interesting consequences. You see, the issue is that the curvature of space-time affects which event can causally influence another event. Let's take two events and call them A and B. For these two events to have had any causal relation, it must be possible for some influence to go from one to the other, and that can't go faster than the speed of light. So if we draw space on the vertical and time on the
Big things are coming for us.
I haven't found my limit.
Time for bold action.
Introducing your champion.
Good choice for me. I'm the jump master. Follow me.
We should land there. Looks like fun.
horizontal axis, and as usual say that light travels at a 45-degree angle, then for A to be the course of B, the event B must be in this area. It's called the inside of the future light cone, just so you've heard of it. If B was down here instead, then it could be a possible cause of A. But not any event is causally related to any other. Suppose they both sit here next to each other, then neither can be a cause of the other. But here's the thing. Space-time curvature can change causal relations. Yes, it can. Remember that time near a black hole passes slower? I'll denote the passage of time with ticks on the vertical axis. If I put a black hole on the right, then A can now influence B, because time runs so slow at B. If I put the black hole on the left, then B can influence A. Alright, you might say, so what? Well, now imagine that the black hole is in both places at the same time. So which event can influence which one? If A was flipping a switch and B was the light turning on, then it seems that depending on how space-time is curved, either the switching caused the light or the light caused the switching. This means that if you want to give quantum properties to space-time, as most physicists think has to be the case, then causal order goes out of the window. And just in case you think this sounds like nonsense, Sabrina probably just made this up so she has something to talk about, I'll leave you a reference in the info below. It's called an indefinite causal structure, which you could now say still sounds like nonsense, but now it's scientific nonsense. Then again, some of you might say, this is actually pretty cool, effects coming before their causes. But of course the fine print is again that this really only happens for teeny tiny things, because these quantum effects are so fragile. Then again, physicists deal with small objects all the time, don't they? And that brings up the question of what you can do with it. You can use this, for example, to compute. Suppose you have a quantum computer and you have these quantum properties of space-time which scramble up the causal order. You can then use this to do several computational operations at the same time. Take one number, call it x, and say you want to add another number, say 3, and then multiply with 7. If you do it in two different orders, then you get both x plus 3 times 7 and x times 7 plus 3. So you've actually done two different calculations at the same time. If you have an algorithm that uses both operations, you can use that to speed up the calculation. And this is just an example where you changed the order of two operations. The more operations you have, the more ways you can exchange them. This means that, in principle, quantum gravity can make quantum computers even faster. And yes, there are some people who have worked out the details. But let me be clear that this isn't something which is going to happen anytime soon, because we haven't even measured the quantum properties of space and time, though there are several experimental groups working on trying to do this, as I've discussed in several previous episodes. But this is one of the reasons why I think quantum gravity is not just interesting for theoretical reasons or merely philosophy. It could one day indeed have technological applications. The other conclusion you can draw from all this is that if quantum gravity gives rise to such indefinite causal orders, then maybe that means that gravity shouldn't be quantized in the first place. I think Albert would prefer this. Yes, I've been talking about quantum physics again. It's without doubt one of the most exciting areas of science at the moment, though I may be a bit biased. If you want to learn more about how quantum physics works, you can check out my course on Brilliant.org. It's a beginner's course that you can take without any background knowledge. It'll introduce you to topics such as interference, superposition and entanglement, the uncertainty principle, and Bell's theorem. And afterwards, you can continue learning more about your favorite topics in science, computer science, or math. All courses on Brilliant come with interactive visualizations and follow-up questions. It's really an easy and fun way to learn something new. And of course, I have a special offer for viewers of this channel. If you use my link, brilliant.org/Sabine, you get to try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for full 30 days, and you'll get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Links in the description below, so go check this out. Thanks for watching, see you tomorrow.
I always make New Year's resolutions as a couple years ago to like shoot for something, then nothing. Yeah. Me, I shoot for the stars, you land from the moon. But it was very convincing. Is it still lagging or is it okay?
It's not. To be honest, it's not great. But hit the PC.
I don't understand why a new game is such a fucking hassle.
See, that's exactly why you need a 2 PC setup.
No, it's not the game. It's OBS, but I don't know why.
Turn off OBS and then try to do it. Oh wow!
It's a real gamer POV.
That's good.
You wanted, right? It's still lagging. It's not even working.
Yeah,
it's kind of sick.
It's with OBS. None of them know what they're talking about. Ignore it all, and the new PC will solve all of the problems.
None of them know what they're talking about. Ignore it all, and the new PC will solve all the problems. Well, then what do I do today?
Half toast, half the roast.
Great. Okay, well, someone here. Okay, hold on.
Should say that. I'm about to make your life a lot easier in ways you didn't know were possible. I've got a bunch of different computer tips. A lot of them are specific to Windows, just some tips and tricks, but a lot of them are also general computer tips that you might not have realized were a thing. And I think for a lot of these, you probably have not seen anyone mention them before, so they should be new for most. Starting off with number one, this is one I use sometimes, and that is to add an exclamation mark to the front of file names or any other item name in a program where you want it to show up at the top of any. What you can do is simply find those will have it, but in the color management settings in Windows, I have some custom color profiles, and the only way to sort these is alphabetically, and it shows all the built-in ones along with the custom ones, but I always want to get the custom ones, so I put an exclamation mark in front of it, and then they're at least all grouped at the bottom. It's in reverse alphabetical, but still, it makes it easy. Next up, number two is another tip that I've used forever, and that is in the Windows download folder. If it's not already set like this, right-click and hit Group By, and then Date Modify. Or you could also do Date Created, which I'll explain in a second, And if that doesn't show up, you can go to More and then find it in the list and enable it. It's pretty easy to see what this does. It basically groups together files that were downloaded today, or yesterday, or more than a few days ago. And this is useful to me because a lot of times you are only caring about the most recently downloaded files if you're downloading something. But where it comes in handy is, say you're downloading a bunch of files all at once, and you want to find one of them alphabetically or just have it better organized, then you'll still be able to sort them alphabetically, but again, they'll be grouped with only the most
They're by
recent
me, they're
ones
by me, they're by
together,
me.
and then the older ones will also be alphabetical, but separate. And then the other property that might be useful is the date created, whether you sort by or group by. And it's different from date modified because, well, it's the date the file was actually created on the file system. And this is self-explanatory why this might be useful. A lot of times you might need to make maybe a tiny change to a file, and then that kind of jumps it to a whole different part of the date modified list, which is usually what people use. But you do want to sort by when you actually downloaded the file or something like that. So just knowing about that, even if you just add it as a column, is pretty useful. Alright, next up, number 3, we have the Windows Expanded Context Menu. You probably know in Windows 10, if you right-click something, or in Windows 11, if you right-click and go to More Options, it brings up this style of context menu. But if you
These guys are chasing me through the fucking storm?
Windows 10 or 11, it'll bring up an expanded version of this context menu, and it'll show sometimes extra stuff depending on what you click. For example, if I shift-click on a folder, here's a few options that weren't there before, or open. It brings up next up, number 3, we have the Windows Expanded Context Menu. You probably know in Windows 10, if you right-click something, or in Windows 11, if you right-click and go to More Options, it brings up this style of context menu. But if you shift right-click something, whether in either Windows 10 or 11, it'll bring up an expanded version of this context menu, and it'll show sometimes extra stuff depending on what you're clicking. For example, if I shift-click on a folder, here's a few options that weren't there before, or open PowerShell window here, open Linux shell here, and open in new process. For files, it's going to depend on the file type. For example, on an exe, you can see this extra option here for run as different. So if you deal with a lot of a certain file type in Windows, it might be worth
Oh, I'm up? What the fuck?
Like clicking it and seeing if there's any options that you might find useful in the future, and then you can use it. Now, as a quick extra bonus tip, you can actually, in Windows 11, make it so it always uses the old context menu. You can change it via a registry edit. I'll actually put a link to a howtogeek.com article. They explain it in a lot more detail. They have like a registry file. You can just download and run it if you want to do that, which is like what I do. Now, one extra tip I have is a great way to stop sketchy online type in Windows. It might be worth it to, for files, it's going to depend on the file type. For example, on an exe, you can see this extra option here for run as different user. So if you deal with a lot of a certain file type in Windows, it might be worth it to try shift right-clicking it and seeing if there's any options that you might find useful in the future, and then you can use it. Now, as a quick extra bonus tip, you can actually, in Windows 11, make it so it always uses the old context menu. You can change it via a registry edit. I'll actually put a link to a howtogeek.com article. They explain it in a lot more detail. They have like a registry file. You can just download and run it if you want to do that, which is like what I do. Now, one extra tip I have is a great way to stop sketchy online data brokers from selling all your personal info, not just to the highest bidder, but basically any bidder. But the way to stop it is they sponsor Delete Me, a data privacy service to which I myself have been a paying customer for over 3 years now, long before they ever sponsored. If you've ever Googled yourself, you definitely have seen the countless so-called data broker websites who not only collect and display all your personal information, like name, address, and phone number, but even sell it to companies all the time. So Delete Me is constant which sites you remove any to get your... Alright, on to number 4. This is more of a general computer life tip, I guess. And that is, if you were like me, who had a big stack or file cabinet full of physical user manuals for different products you bought over the years, and you just keep the manual around just in case. Well, what I started doing is to actually either, one, if you can find it online, find the online version of all the product manuals, or if you can't, actually scan them into a PDF and then save them all into one folder on your computer and throw out all the physical manuals. This has often made my life a lot easier. For example, if I want to look up the product manual, I don't have to dig through a bunch of piles of physical ones. I can simply search for it in that folder. I'll put the product name, maybe even the model number in the file name and just search for it. and it's a lot easier than searching physically. And on top of that, if you download the digital version or use optical character recognition on the ones you scan, you can often just search through the PDF for the term you're looking for, if you're looking for a specific problem to fix, instead of having to literally flip through the pages of the physical one. Have to look in the table of contents to see if it even talks about the problem you want to deal with. It's a lot easier. And of course, it saves a lot of space. Alright, next up, number 5, is a way to address an occasional issue I've come across in Windows, which is that by default, usually enabled in the device manager settings, is that Windows may power down USB-powered devices if it's considered idle. For example, if you go in the device manager in Windows and right-click a USB device, and then go to Properties, and then the Power Management tab, a lot of times you'll see this option for allow Windows to turn this off when it's not being used. And in the past, this has caused issues with devices not working properly when I think it should, and I actually created a PowerShell script that automatically goes through all of these and unchecks that box, basically. But another important thing to note about this is, I believe, at least in the past, when you did a major Windows update, maybe even not a major one, it would actually reset this setting in all the devices, which is part of the reason I did the script, just so I wouldn't have to manually go through them every time. So if you do end up running the script, maybe every once in a while go check to make sure that it's still disabled and Windows didn't reset it, and then you can just use the script again. I'll put the link in the description where you can go on GitHub and just download it. And then you can run it by opening PowerShell. I believe it has to be as an admin. You can use the command cd to change directory to wherever you have that file. And then because PowerShell is weird, you have to run the script by doing a period and then a backslash and then the name of the script, and then it should run. You might also need to run this command first, which will temporarily remove a restriction for Windows to block PowerShell scripts. Just make sure you include the -scope process one. That makes sure that it will go back to the normal security setting after you close the window. I've seen a lot of tutorials that talk about PowerShell scripts that don't include that, and then you kind of leave your computer open afterwards, so definitely include it. Okay, I believe we're up to number 6, and this one has to do with the Terminal app in Windows, which is basically a more feature-rich version of the command prompt. Like the new version of that. Anyway, usually when you right-click something, I don't know if this depends on how you have Windows set up, but you should usually see an Open in Terminal option, and that will simply open the terminal with the path the right-click in.
Can you fall off the edge?
It's a lot easier than having to type in the path manually. But what you can also do if you need to run a terminal in admin mode, what you can do is actually go into the Microsoft GitHub page for the preview version of the terminal and install that alongside the regular version, and then actually set that one to automatically go into the admin mode. So you can right-click in a folder and basically choose whether you want to run it as normal or admin. And the way you do that is open the terminal preview.
Careful, don't come this way, don't come this way, don't come this way, don't come this way.
And then
stay on that way you were going.
Default profile is. In my case, I set it to command prompt, so I go into that on the left side. And then you simply toggle the setting on that says run this profile as administrator, and then also make sure the option to start in parent directory.
You might be okay now, but they're still right here.
Make sure that it starts in that path that you right-clicked on. And now you can easily open a terminal anywhere, either as regular user or admin, in just 2 clicks. Up next, number 7, is a couple ways to easily extract text from an image. One way is to use Microsoft's PowerToys suite of tools. This is published by Microsoft. You can actually get this from the Microsoft Store, download from there. And I'm not going to get into all the different tools in this. I've made videos about this, but specifically the one I'm looking for is the text extractor. You can toggle that one on, and then you can either use the shortcut, which I always forget, or you can click on the little icon in the system tray, and it'll bring up a menu of a bunch of different tools you have enabled. You can simply click on text extractor. It will bring up a cursor. You select what you want to extract the text from in the image, and it'll try to interpret it, and then you can paste it when you click. Alternatively, the latest version of the snipping tool built into Windows also does text extraction. If you take a screenshot, highlight an area, you'll see this little box icon show up, and you can click that, it'll analyze and find text, and you can select some of it or all of it, and it'll copy the clip. And that might be useful because one might be more accurate than another. In some cases, you can try this. Okay, on to number 8 is an easy way to get to the BIOS menu on your computer. You probably know that there's a BIOS key you can usually press, the delete key or the 2 key or something like that, when the computer boots up.
It's the one that came to you.
The BIOS screen. But doing that, a lot of times that
He's
just
alone.
ends up
He's alone that came to
pressing
you.
the key a whole bunch of times, booting up the computer, hoping that you time it right, or sometimes you might not even know what the key is in the first place. But you can actually create a shortcut in Windows to automatically restart the computer and go directly into the BIOS without having to hit any key. And the way you do that is to create a shortcut, so right-click, create shortcut anywhere, and then in the target box, you're going to type in this command, cmd.exe/k shutdown/r/fw/key1. And I can break down what these all do. The cmd.exe/k, that just means we're going to be running this command through the command prompt, and the /k makes it so the command prompt window stays open after it runs, so you can see what it's doing. The shutdown/r is the command to restart the computer. That's what the /r does. And the /fw, this is actually the key here. This stands for firmware, and that's the one that makes it restart to the BIOS. /t, that stands for time, and that's just the number of seconds to delay before restarting. I just set it to 1, so it's not necessarily instant, but that one doesn't really. And then all you have to do is simply double click on that shortcut, make sure you want to actually restart the computer. If you do, and it will boot directly to the BIOS settings. Alright, now the next 3 tips are really quick. These are just some keyboard shortcuts that are probably good to know. And for number 9, I'm going to actually group 2 together. You have the Control Backspace and Control Delete shortcuts. And this simply allows you to delete an entire word instead of...
Dang, good job, buddy! Way to get my the win!
Between Backspace and Delete.
I can't believe I came back after that. I died and just was not. What the fuck?
Right, but it's still instead of the character. Next, number 10 is a quick cool one, and that is if you have a window open, if you
I'm gonna call it a day with that win right there, baby.
Back behind any. And for number 11, this is one that a lot of people see as common knowledge, but you might not, and that is in many programs, you can zoom in.